Track and field fans, you're in for a special treat. I got an email the other day. Someone's like, "Can I watch you record the podcast live?" I'm like, "No, we don't do that." I lied. Special live edition of the Let'sRun.com Track Talk podcast. Normally record this on Monday or Tuesday behind closed doors. Do a tiny bit of editing, not really, but today we're going live. The guy next to me, Jonathan Gultz in Kingston, Jamaica. I am Let'sRun.com co-founder Robert Johnson, joined by always my genetic equal Weldon Johnson. We will be breaking down the big talk of the track and field world over the last 12 hours. Taylor Rowe has set out, Grand Slam track, folks. Grand Slam track. $30 million new track and field league is in the book. The first event is in the books. Kingston. We've been talking about it for days. We'll talk about it some more. What went right? What went wrong? Today on day 3, the Emmanuel Wanyonyi hype train has come down a little bit. He was destroyed in the 800 by Marco Arop. Cindy McLaughlin-Ravoni won $100,000. So did Grant Fisher in a race that would make Steve Prefontaine turn over in his grave. I just heard the door knocking. I think it's Pre coming out of the grave. He would be so upset with that. What else happened today, John? There's so many races I can't even remember.
Everyone discovered that Charles Hicks is actually trying to become an American citizen because he won the U.S. 10-mile champs today at D.C. And somehow the second place athlete actually set an American record, Alex Mayer. So we'll dive into that one, the Cherry Blossom 10-miler. The big story in that race was actually on the women's side, where Taylor Rowe, who won the U.S. Half Marathon Championships last month, crushed the event record, crushed the American record, 49.53. It's even a world's best for 10 miles in a women's race, even though many women have run faster en route. Sensational performance. She is really blossoming into a long-distance star in her first year as a professional. So we'll talk about that race as well. And then I guess, are we supposed to look forward? I'm not used to recording this thing on a Sunday night and thinking about next week. So I don't know if there's any huge meets coming up on the horizon. I know that we're about 2 weeks out from Boston Marathon. In fact, we're recording this Sunday night, April 6th. So in 15 days, it'll be Marathon Monday in Boston, but I think it's a little early to start talking spring marathons. So I think we should start with Kingston.
We definitely starting with Kingston. I mean, they did it. Do you guys have a glass? A beverage?
I got my red stripe here. Well, then.
There we go, John. I mean, just let's raise a glass to Michael Johnson. I don't know anyone else besides Kyle Merber. Whoever put this on, it was far from perfect, but Grand Slam track, they pulled off a meet. They had some really good stars. This was Diamond League quality or better. There's competition in the track world. They're trying to reach new fans. Like, we'll have lots of constructive criticism for this, but at the end of the day, it's a new thing to talk about and analyze. But I think we should have some big picture stuff. Like, kudos. I think everyone is glad the Grand Slam track is in the track and field ecosystem.
I agree with you on that, Weldon. It was a fun meet. I enjoyed coming to it. There were some very good races. There were some races where I think some of the flaws with the system were exposed. I think a lot of the fans who were here, I talked to some beforehand, they all seemed to love it. They liked the energy. Obviously, the crowds weren't enormous. No one was expecting it to be perfect. It's a startup, and this was the first meet. So certainly there are things to be improved upon. I enjoyed the races. I still have serious questions about its long-term viability and profitability. But if you're a fan of elite track and field, there were some great elite track and field races and some matchups we probably wouldn't have seen without Grand Slam track getting the likes of Wanyonyi and the 1500 guys to race each other, or Gabby Thomas stepping up to the 400. So kudos on those. It was a fun weekend, and we'll see where it goes from here.
I probably have been known as the biggest critic of this venture, only in the sense of for 25 years, have been thinking, people are saying, if we only market the sport, it'll be more popular. I love our sport the way it is. It's a big deal at the Olympics. The rest of the time, it's still a big deal for me, but not for the public. And that's the way I think it always will be. There were some cool things this weekend. And the communications team, Michael Johnson, thank John for the article last night, because last night, the day two recap, John's like, we got to see Wanyonyi, the Olympic 800-meter champ, take down the 1,500-meter podium in a big meet where everybody was going all out. And that's only because of this format. So thank you, Grand Slam track. That is true. But big picture wise, and it's great that we have these investors trying to make money. We have Alexis Ohanian of Athlos trying to make money. People think there's potential. I mean, I guess with the skyrocketing values of sports teams, I mean, if a women's soccer team is worth $110 million, I guess I understand why people putting $30 million in track. Seems to me like they're going to be burning $30 million, but hey, they're trying, please. But big picture wise, hate to be negative. If you told me a year ago when they started announcing this, hey, we're going to put the first meet in Kingston, and we're not going to have Noah Lyles, we're not going to have Sha'Carri Richardson, we're not going to have Shane Thompson, we're not going to have Sharika Jackson, we're not going to have Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price, and there's going to be basically no one the first day. Like, it's going to be completely empty. I would have been like, and the TV broadcast is going to be subpar. The technology announcing who wins the 2-race format is going to be terrible. I just wouldn't have believed you. So you only have one chance to make a first impression, and maybe people weren't watching live on Peacock like me. But big picture wise, there were some things I got really caught up on it the first day. I love some of the races, but big picture wise, I was like, wow, man, I can't believe. I thought the presentation on TV was going to be amazing. I thought Athlos did a really good job of being better than a normal meet. And they tried to copy some of that. They had the infield, they had Centrowitz in the infield talking on the TV broadcast, but I couldn't get over how bad their timing site was. There was no splits on the clock, and they just did a horrific. The technology was non-existent of announcing who won $100,000, the prize money. The whole thing's about the prize money. And they had no graph. They had no way to like tell you who won 100, who won 50, who won 30, who won 25. When the race ends, before the next meet, it needs to pop. Second race ends. The first time should pop up. Their points should pop up. Second, same thing. Third, go through all 8. And then when you're done, whoever has the highest points, that person should turn green, and a bag of cash should show up next to their name. Not that hard. Rant over.
I think we can talk about what they could do better with the meet later, but I don't think that's the place to start. Maybe I'm wrong because there is a lot I want to say on it, but also they're a startup. Most startups lose money. Amazon lost money for I don't know how many years, 10 years, 15 years. And they started minting money. The one thing money gives these guys is a runway. I flipped on the TV today trying to find Grand Slam track. I couldn't find it. I see Sail GP on TV. Have you guys heard of Sail GP?
Nope.
It's a sailing race. They were actually in San Francisco, I think, last week. This was like a month, maybe tape delayed. It was the LA version of the meet. They said they have $12 million in sailing, but they have tons of sponsors. Oracle, Rolex, high-heeled money. So I think there's certain things some people do better than others, that sort of stuff. But we don't want to go there now. Like in the big sports ecosystem, they've got the money to run this for a year, I would say. They'll improve to step 2. So let's talk a little bit about the racing, and then we can talk about what went right and what went wrong. So John, you were there in person today. You get to pick. Jonathan's choice. Which race are we starting with?
I think we should start with the men's 3000 because that to me is the race I'm thinking about the most, just reflecting on it. I mean, the wind and the weather definitely had a big impact on pretty much every race today because unlike Friday and Saturday, this one started at 2:42 local time in Jamaica. And what I noticed on Friday and Saturday, the afternoons, it gets very windy here. It's hot and sunny, and the winds are massive. It'll die down by the end, but this one was happening in the middle of the afternoon. So you had massive headwinds in all of the sprints. and then you still had a headwind on the home straight for the distance events, but it was also really hot and sunny. So awful conditions for distance running and not great for sprints either because of the headwind. And we saw this in the 3,000 meters. This is one of the most crazy sentences I'm about to say, but Hagos Gebrewet ran an even-paced 7:51 in the 3,000 meters, and that was enough to win by 9 seconds over a world-class field, including a 12:42 guy and the Olympic silver and bronze medalists from the 5,000 meters in Paris last year. And there is a little bit more than that at play, which we'll get into in a second because of the prize money and how it was distributed. But it's pretty crazy. Gebrewet and Bekele, they take off early. Gebrewet runs a 60 for his second lap, and they just get this gap, and eventually Gebrewet separates from Bekele, and they just hold it the whole way. But I mean, whenever have you seen a guy in an elite 3,000 meters? There's some really good guys, a lot of guys who run 7:30 or faster in this field, run 7:51, closing in 64 seconds, and still there's no doubt he won by 9 seconds. It's just very odd, but that happened because of the weather. It was hot and windy, and Grant Fisher, who won the 5,000 on Friday night, he was very quickly faced with the decision. Do I go with this two-man breakaway, or do I sit back? And Grant's a smart fellow. He did the math. He realized, wait a minute, these two guys who are breaking away, Gebrewet and Bekele, they were 4th and 7th in the 5,000 meters on Friday. Grant Fisher won the 5,000. So as long as he finished 3rd or better today in the 3,000, he was guaranteed to win the $100,000. So he spoke quite candidly about this in his post-race interview and said he measured the odds. He thought his odds were better of just hanging back and trying to outkick everyone else than trying to go with those two and risk blowing up. He didn't know, maybe they were going to try to run even faster than 7:51. But he was like, I think that made the most sense for me to win the overall event. He was proven right because he outkicked everyone else. He got 3rd. He took home the money. But it's a problem for the league if you've got one of your marquee athletes, Grant Fisher, just not interested at all in winning the race. I totally understand why he did it. I'm not criticizing for it, but it's a problem with the format.
It's not a big problem for me because what are the odds this happens regularly? It's not going to happen regularly because you're not going to have 30-degree wind temperatures in the distance races being run in 86-degree weather.
Wait a second, Robert. The next Grand Slam meet is in Miramar, Florida, and the TV window is 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. I'm not saying we're going to have the exact same conditions we had today, but you could have a similar scenario.
Okay, Florida, hot weather. I agree. But they should have just kept the camera on that because that's what the 100,000 was. First of all, I totally disagree with Grant Fisher. I was begging when I saw him. Well, first of all, when I saw him not go with the leaders, I wasn't. Again, it's hard to follow the format. One thing I was wondering, is it going to be intuitive, like to follow the format? Who's a win? No, it's not intuitive. You got to really be thinking about it. I'm like, oh my God, what a coward! He's not going with these guys. I was hoping that someone was going to push the pace in this heat and try to break the Americans, and that's what they did. But when he didn't go with it, I was like, this is the most cowardly thing I've ever seen. And then I realized, oh, wait, it's smart. But I was praying to God that somebody would outkick him. Cooper Tier, somebody just beat him. And I disagree with his logic here of I'm here to win. That's my job. And that was the highest percentage chance of winning in my mind. So that's what I did. I executed. I got the win. If people want a different outcome in the race, they need to beat me in the first one. Actually, I like that quote. He's not making apologies for it. But I think his best strategy, like, don't you think him getting outkicked by Cooper Tier is higher than him not being able to break away from these guys in a hot race?
There's the other thing. If he tried to go with those two guys, does the rest of the field try to follow him? That might have happened as well. I did consider, I'm like, well, wait, if these two guys got a gap, maybe he can just run with them and jog it in for 3rd, and he's gapped everyone else in the field. So I don't know. His strategy ended up working. He's very confident in his kick. He outkicked all those guys on Friday night, so he was thinking, "Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. I can run it back." It makes sense to me, and I asked Michael Johnson about this. I just said, I think his format works fine for pretty much all the other events because it's not like in the sprints or the hurdles you're really going to be just sandbagging or just trying to beat one specific person. Like you just race all out. It's pretty simple. Whereas in the distance events, you can get scenarios like this where there's some sort of breakaway. You just kind of realize like, okay, there's enough room there's enough time of the race for you to think through these scenarios and actually like focus on beating specific athletes. So he acknowledged that could be an issue that they need to tweak. But it is interesting going into the series, we complained about this saying, oh, I don't want to see the same two races over and over, a 3K and a 5K. It's the same thing. These two races were totally different. They could not have been more different. The Friday and Sunday races, and yet there was still another sort of issue with it. So,
well, for the men they were, but not for the women. We got the same race twice.
Right. So I think there are some things to be worked out in the distance events. And I do think, I don't know if it'll be before the end of the season, but I think year 2, they probably will change it a little bit. But in terms of Grant Fisher, I do think this was a very good weekend for him. He showed a great kick pretty early in the season on Friday and then got, outkicked the other guys on Sunday. Would have been fun to see him go up against Gebrewedt again, but he won a major international race, which he hadn't done before, and he gets $100,000. It's a pretty good weekend trip for Grant Fisher.
Well, props to Fisher and Scannell. Like Fisher made a bold move in dumping Jerry, and you can't. He's got 2 medals. His kick looks insane. He's 2 world records. You can't complain about any of the performance. He runs, though, exactly how I would coach someone to run. It's an extremely boring way to run. He does no work. It honestly, Steve Prefontaine would probably rather jump off a bridge than run like the way Grant Fisher does.
Wait a minute. He does no work, you're saying, in like international races, you mean, right? I mean, the dude broke Cole Hawker in a fight. Well, he didn't break, he outkicked him, but he ran from the front in that and then essentially soloed a world record in the 5K for the second half. Like he let a miler take the pace in the world record run and then outkicked him. So look, he's not a Prefontaine front runner, but he's got. Did you watch the Olympic trials last year, Robert? Clearly you didn't, because that's how he won his 5K and 10K titles.
Look,
okay, guys, there's a nice comment here. There's a nice comment here. Why would Grant do anything else? Have you guys watched the Tour de France? This happens all the time. You sacrifice the stage to win the Tour. This is a game.
Yeah.
The point of the game is to win the series.
Did you hear me criticize Grant Fisher?
I feel like I heard Robert on the texting chain criticizing him, and now he's turned his tune around saying it's totally fine. It's a game. This is what you're incentivizing. I don't think you'll see this a lot, but this was one of the things afterwards. Like one of the race ins, and they immediately kick it back to John Anderson, and maybe after the 800, I think. And he's like, Sintra, what do you want to talk about first? Like Arop winning the 800 or Wanyonyi winning the 100K? And so what are we supposed to focus on? It's going to take a little while to figure this thing out. And there's going to be some kinks. I mean, you have much smaller fields as well in a Diamond League and the racing day-to-days. And if you're going to have hot conditions, you might get some uncompetitive races. That's what we saw. Like,
I don't understand.
As a pure race itself, it was a little bit different, though, because then you're sort of wondering, like, hey, how are these guys going to do? What do we say about one thing we always say about the sport? It's too predictable. There was a little unpredictability here because there's a different axis some people are evaluating things on.
Right. The example for the Tour de France is actually a perfect one. You had the stage winner, Hagos, and then you had the other battle behind it, and that's what the camera should have just focused on that at the end. They should have never shown Hagos once he crossed the finish line. Just focus on Grant Fisher. You can't tweak it. There's nothing to tweak. What would your tweak rule change be that would make this better? You can't tweak it.
Make it a one-race thing. Just get rid of one of the races. Make the distance guys only run once per meet.
For certain races, I would just say, Sydney, you're racing the 400. There's $200,000 to the winner. Like it's going to be you, Paulino, Nasser, and Thomas. Let's go. Something crazy like that. Like would that be more interesting, or seeing Sydney smoke a bunch of 400-meter hurdlers?
My takes moving forward is maybe you have less races. I think 3 days in a row is too much, but and watching the 110 hurdle guys. Well, I guess if the wind was better, you would like, what is Sydney's time? How does it compare to the other 400? The times were so slow, you didn't know what to think. But my tweet moving forward would be, I don't really want to see the 110 hurdlers run a 500. I don't actually want to even see 400 bad 200 runners that are 400 guys run the 200. I'd rather see the hurdlers run 2 hurdle races in a row. Just if you're going to do 2 races, if you want to make them run 2, make them run the hurdles twice. And I really would like to see
110 hurdles. You just want to see them run the same distance. I don't want to see them run the same exact race 2 times in a row.
Well, I'd even be fine with watching the 1500 guys run 2 1500s in 3 days. See if it's the same result.
No. We said, Robert, we don't want a 3K and a 5K back to back. You don't want to see 2 1500s. Come on.
I would like to see it one time just to see if I got the same result.
Actually, I'm with Robert on that one. We never see that. Like, how many times do you go to an NCAA final or a world championship and you say, if we reran this race 10 times, I think I'd win 7, or there'd be 7 different outcomes. We never get to see it in reality. So I'm actually on board with Rojo.
A lot of Grand Slam track could just be like fantasy track and field. Like it may be amazing. Maybe we would get 5 different results, and maybe you just do it and see what it's like. I have no idea. Maybe it's the same. The first time I watched it repeat, it'd be interesting. Same thing with the hurdles. And then I would like to see. Robert. I still think this is my thing. It's like New York City Marathon should be rabbited one year, unrabbit the next. I really think they should rabbit one of these 2 races, the 3 or the 5. If you're going to have both, you have to rabbit one. You get to you have the rabbit warmed up and you draw a hat. It's like yes or no. This rabbit's right on the line, and then they got to change their tactics.
Now, Robert, how about this? Grand Slam track manufactures a way to rerun a race. Let's just say in the women's 800, maybe picking an event at random. Would you want them to see that? Like, just say, hey, actually, I know we told you you'd be running the 8 and the 15, but you're just going to run another 800 later today. Now, would you want them to do this? And would you want them to manufacture a full in order to actually follow the rule books and complete your fantasy of rerunning a race? Or do you want them to just run the race and just say, no, actually, we're going to rerun it because we want you to rerun it? Because I know if you're trying to make all your track fantasies come true, this is one of your biggest, is to see a race actually rerun in its entirety.
Yeah, but I want it rerun for a reason. Not just
okay. Michael Johnson's going to go out there and try to tackle the leader then, and then we'll have a reason.
I wonder. I don't know. Could you have like the racers be the stars and they run like the 15 and the 5? Anyways, so look. Grant ran really smart. I don't know actually how many athletes would be that smart to figure it out. I mean, I think honestly, like the announcers weren't even that well prepared on the math of this thing. But basically, if you're a regular podcast listener and haven't been listening the last few days, a winner of the event is basically guaranteed to win $100,000. If you win and are 5th or higher in the second event, one of the winners is going to be the winner. So all 12, or how many event groups are there?
12. I'm just going through them to see if there's anyone who actually didn't win a race this weekend. Taye, SML, Thomas.
No, 100% not.
Wait,
it's almost guaranteed you have to win a race.
Did Teji won the 1500? Yeah. Daniel Williams won today. Wooden swept it. Zoya Benerick, Matt Hudson-Smith. Yeah. Every winner won at least one race. Let's move to the men's 8 and 15.
That's also one thing the announcers didn't realize. Hold on, Robert, is that it's set up. It's going to be one of the winners unless the person completely bombs in the other race. One of the winners is going to win the series the way the series is done.
Well, that's why I thought
it's going to happen or it doesn't. But
I thought at a minimum they would have a graphic. Like in Amazon Prime and Thursday Night Football, like when the defense is getting near the line of scrimmage, they'll highlight a certain player, like this person's likely to blitz. I thought they would have some sort of like yellow graphic and highlight the winner of the race, the previous winner in the second race, that you at least circle that person. Like, this is the person you should be focusing on, but they didn't do that. All right, let's talk men's 15-8. Like what? Kerr, Hawker, Nagoose. We had the 3 medalists from the 1500 here. This is our favorite event in track and field. Then you had Wanyonyi and A-Rop, and Wanyonyi took them all down in the 1500. An absolutely amazing race. And we get to the 8 and today, and I texted you guys. Jonathan Galt made a ton of money gambling on this Grand Slam track. And in Maryland, it's against the law. Apparently, you can bet every sport, including college lacrosse. But for some reason, track and field is illegal to bet on because the same apps that John's using, they're not on here. But I found an overseas book, and I saw Wanyonyi's like the big favorite, and then A-Rop is like plus 400, which is like 25%. And I'm like, there's money in that. These guys are almost dead even in the 800. And I assume that A-Rop's in pretty good shape, like he always is. And I was thinking to myself, to win, we know that Wanyonyi's been training longer distance stuff. He's already run a 15. I'm like, he's probably training more for the 15. Will that cost him in the 8? And it certainly did, because A-Rop wiped the floor of him today. So I didn't get the money down on that, but I did get plus 400, but $125 in Hagos to take down Grant Fisher. Thank you, Hagos. If I thought about that and how Fisher might set that one out, I could have bet $500. God damn.
Okay. Robert going over his hypothetical winnings.
This game went up. What was interesting to me was, in the Times, there's tons of threads about this, but we were really curious, what were the 800 guys going to run? The 1500 guys going to run 800. But the wind was so hard. It was so slow. I mean, it's hard to say. A-Rop 145.13. Wanyonyi 146.44. Only 2 guys break 147. Bryce Hoppel 147.02. So basically, the 3 guys that were the top 4 in the Olympics dominated this event. They were the 400 meters in. They'd already crushed the field. Then Neil Gorley surprisingly beats all the other 1500 meter guys. 147.8. Cole Hawker 148.0. Hawker beats Nagoose, which I thought Hawker would be a better 800 runner than Nagoose. He beats him at 0.14, 148.16. And then Josh Kerr, dead last, 150.68. So I don't know. We've been looking forward to this. Like, what can the 15 guys run in the 8? And then when I watched it, it was complete. I guess because the winds, to me, the times mean nothing. I guess you could subtract 3 or 4 seconds, but that's just a hypothetical. I wanted to see what the actual time was, and we didn't get that. So to me, this race, like from the 1500 guys perspective, did nothing. It was like, they're not competitive with these guys, and they'll never be competitive with these guys. I guess
Did you describe the race? We shouldn't assume everyone saw the race. I think we need to describe it a little more because some of our viewers would not have seen this race. It was shocking.
What was shocking about
split,
it?
John?
Yeah.
It wasn't
when they
that
came
shocking
through 400. It was
what happened?
Completely shocking to me.
They
came through 400 in about 52 seconds, and the 1500 guys were off the back. Now maybe that was the wind or everything, but this was a tale of 2 races. It wasn't interesting. If they rerun these again and they start taking the 1500s out in 332 and no one can go with them, and the 800 guys are off the back, and they start running the 800s and the 1500 guys are off the back, it's just boring. I'm sorry. I expected Cole Hawker to be up there competing, ready to go to the line with these guys. He was talking about running 143. If you're running 143, if you're in that sort of shape, you're with those guys all the way down the home stretch. I was shocked by this
John,
race.
John, I don't want to hear you say what was shocking about it. True or false? We had a guy that bet close to $500,000 on the Olympic track and field action, texting us before this race, saying, should I bet on Cole Hawker? He thought there might be value in Cole Hawker winning this race. And those guys, it was like,
and I told him no.
Well,
for the exact reason I'm going to outline.
It was like boys versus girls. It was like high school varsity versus JV.
Well, yeah. Think about it this way. All right. Cole Hawker, actually, I believe he told Sidious he thought he might be able to run 142 in the 800, but that's when he's in 327 shape. That's when he's like peaked, ready to fire at the end of the season, not on April 6th. In this race, I'm like, look, you got a bunch of 141, 800 specialists, a couple of whom aren't going to be all that taxed from going to the well in the 1500 because Wanyonyi and A-Rop and Hoppel were way off the back in that one versus 1500 guys who just went all out the night before. So I was thinking, yeah, I still much prefer the 800 guys in this race, and the 1500 guys we'll see. And what happened was A-Rop took it out in 52.15. You would think that the 1500 guys would be on that, but it was so effing windy in this race. I mean, these were like 3 and 4 meter per second headwinds in the home straight. So a 52, that's really like a 50 point. I think, given the conditions, honestly. So maybe 51 low. But there was an immediate separation between the three guys who've run 141, who are three of the fastest human beings ever to run this distance, and everyone else in the field. So in that respect, am I totally shocked? Not really. Like, this is certainly a possible outcome. I am bummed that the weather meant that we really didn't get a chance to see Hawker and Nagoose, and then Kurz coming off injury. I'll get to that in a second. Show what they were capable of. And we may not get it. They're running again the Miami Slam, where you would think the weather would be a little better. But again, in that one, the 1,500 meters is first. So I think really the chance you're going to see these guys rip in the 800 is going to be in the second and third slams, where the 800 comes first, and where they're going to, the third and fourth slams, where the 800 comes first.
Who's in
and
charge
they're
of
going to
this
be
stuff?
in better shape.
Can someone give me a good reason why you wouldn't alternate the 15 first one meet, the 8 first the next meet?
So what you're saying?
I wouldn't do that. The next one's the 8. Next one's 15-8, and then the last two go 8-15.
I think it's a huge advantage to have your main event first. If you're one of these events where there's actually it's evenly split, because you run your own event to try to win it all out, and then you just tactically run the next event.
Or should you kind of sandbag the first event, your off event? Not necessarily sandbag, but like don't go for the win, knowing you're not going to win. Like pick off like a third place, and then just hammer your event the next day and win it. Well, like if these guys go really hard in 8.
We had both those approaches in the short distance, and Wanyonyi went all out to win it, and he won, and he got the slam title. A-Rop, I don't know whether it was sandbagging or whether even if he went all out, he's probably not finishing in the top 5 in that race anyway. He did that, and then he comes back and wins the 800, but because Wanyonyi ran so well yesterday, he was able to get the overall victory.
All right, guys. And also, we never encourage people on YouTube. Like us right now, hit the heart button. What is it? You don't even have to subscribe, but if you want this as a podcast, you can subscribe, not at the YouTube subscription. Follow us there as well, but go to letsrun.com/subscribe to get this as a podcast. But hit the like button right now on YouTube. It helps us out. We appreciate it.
No, you should hit the follow button on YouTube so that you get notified when we go live, in case you're not on the homepage.
Okay, Robert, I tried to subtly prompt you. Is there something on your face? I was wondering if it was a bug. I tried to put up a comment. I guess you didn't see it.
Other side of your face, Robert.
Robert's clearly now reading the viewer comments on the screen here. Oh, it's a cut.
Right here?
My apologies,
Yeah,
that's it.
My wife got upset with me. She asked that. She's like, "Did you get in a fight?" I forgot what I was carrying. Something I think like a broom or so. I think I was carrying a broom, and I had these weird steps, and I hit myself like this. And so it's not a bug.
Okay.
You're like me, Robert.
First of all,
I got this. I got a big garage door opener the other day, but fortunately that scar is faded and it's on the very top of my head, so you can't see it.
Okay, before we segue to another event.
Wait.
Yeah, go ahead, Weldon, because I do have a couple more things to say about this race.
Jonathan Turbin.
I just want to say something in general.
The doubling is a gimmick and can't last. Seeing Wanyonyi and Gabby is not worth 9 hours over 3 days. Just a simple, interesting feels and use your dollars to tighten it up. I like how it does mean something, and every race is just not going through the motions. So, but I'm wondering, you wouldn't be going through the motions if there was enough, right? Would you still be going all out? Diamond League, there's a difference in prize money, but it's not that much. It's like $500 between 6th and 7th or something. I kind of think that's what they're going to end up doing.
Well, that is one of my takes. We can get there more in discussion. The money makes you feel it's important, and they're going all out. These Diamond League people need to stop complaining. And Jonathan Turbin, guys, if you guys don't know who he is the #1 Supporters Club member. Him and I will be going to the Golden State Warriors game this weekend. Compliments Jonathan. So, wow. I'm honored to have him on the show. Yes, you can bribe my affection, people. Introduce me to
Warriors
San
tickets.
Francisco.
That's not cheap.
Introduced me to San Francisco. I did take him to lunch, but he bought a bunch of supporters club concept. I'm definitely coming out ahead. There's a restaurant we went to, like I think it's called Palm City or something, Jonathan. I tried to take my family there, exploring new parts of the city because of this guy. And John, I can't believe it's 90 degrees anywhere because
I would make an inappropriate joke.
Here is when I moved here 6 months ago.
20 years ago, I'd make an inappropriate joke. I can't do it.
20 years ago, Robert, I've only known you for 11 years, and I think you would have made an inappropriate joke if we weren't live on air right now. Good job for restraining yourself.
Does he know which team you're batting for, Weldon?
Okay.
That seems too good to be true. Too nice.
Okay. Talking about the few other takes on this race, like we said, the 1,500 guys weren't really that competitive. I mean, that's probably knowing Cole Hocker and Josh Kerr, that's going to light a fire up under them, and they're going to want to close that gap by the next few slams. The problem is the guy, I mean, I guess Wanyonyi is not going to run another one. Sounds like Hoppel wants to run as many as he can. He wants to run Miami if he's invited, and I think he should be. This was decent. I was like, how you feel? A-Rob kind of beat you by a lot, but he was like, no, I'm in a pretty good spot. Like, I think he's feeling okay with where he's at right now, and I would agree. And he was kind of pleased to get the 1,500 PB. Like, he likes the whole concept, so he was in on this. Josh Kerr, DFL 150.68, just an abysmal race. And I asked him afterwards. I was like, hey, the rumor is that you're sick. Like, what's going on? And he said, no, I'm not sick, but I had a hip injury and it bothered me for about 3 months. I couldn't really do real training. And I was like, wait a second. You were scheduled to run the Milrose games 2 months ago. So were you help? Like, what was going on there? Because he withdrew and he said he withdrew to the sickness, which I do think he was sick. But I think also he was a bit banged up. He wanted to run because he usually runs Milrose. He likes the meet. He had committed to it ahead of time, so he kind of felt some pressure to show up. His agent, Ray Flynn, is the meet director. And then he was just like, yeah, in retrospect, it was dumb. I should have just, pulled out way earlier. Shouldn't have tried to do it. And he said that his last month, he's been healthy. He's injury-free now. He's got about a month's worth of decent workouts, but obviously against the guys he's going up against, that wasn't enough to be really competitive. And I think it definitely showed in the second race, bouncing back one day later. So the good news is he's healthy now. He should be improving, but he had this hip issue, which really, he said, threw off, the start of 2025 for him.
A few things here. One, I'm glad you asked him and pointed out that Milrose thing, because I just read Jonathan's written recap of the meet, 7 takeaways from Milrose, and put it up on the homepage. And when he said he had a hip injury it cost him 3 months, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. I'm like, hope John doesn't believe this. John, I sometimes feel like he's old and naive. He just believes everything said. Everyone takes everyone at face value because he's supposed to do Milrose. And plus, when John and I were at USA Indoors, we talked to his coach, Danny Mackey. Mackey's like, yeah, after Milrose, we thought about getting a wild card for World Indoors. So he couldn't have been in that bad of shape. So he was clearly still running, and it's not like he was just missing time.
Right. Like when I talked to him today, he was kind of acting like he hadn't done workouts for 3 months or something. I'm like, it didn't seem that bad. But
John, the fact that Mackey was thinking they thought about going to World Indoors, it shows that it wasn't that bad. I would actually, hearing you tell me this though, makes me very encouraged for him, because he was right there in the 1,500 with those.
Yeah.
Right there with 50 meters to go. And if this is Josh Kerr at 95%, whatever. And, people are making fun of them. Even Centro after the 1,500 was like, yeah, the only person with a bigger smile than Emmanuel Wanyonyi is Jacob Ingebrigtsen. And there's a thread on the message board. Somebody on this podcast might have started under a fake name saying Jakob's laughing or shaking in his boots, seeing 148, 150 from his big 1,500 meter rivals. But I'm not convinced that Jakob would have run faster than 148 in this race, because it was windy as hell. And these guys that are just as good as him in the 1,500 didn't run any faster. So I would love to see Jakob in one of these unrabbit races, but it is, you talk about the flaws in the system, just in some of these event groups, like they're totally different runners. And 8 and 15 is, for most of those guys, it's a completely different skill set almost.
Yeah. And I will say with Kerr, he did this behind the scenes video the weekend of the Millrose games. He didn't end up running, but he was talking about that hip thing during that video. So I don't doubt that he was legitimately injured. And yeah, I'm just, people, Jakob said he was injured at the 2023 Worlds. Sick at the 2023 Worlds. And I believe that. And I believe Josh Kerr, I don't think he's making up that he was banged up. The severity, I don't know. But I certainly think it impacted his training.
Okay, I was going to say it elsewhere when we're talking about who was a big loser at this meet. And I was going to say Josh Kerr. When you look at these results, you see him second to the bottom. Well, he was last in this place, but in the overall standings, and he won $12,500. Now, he was signed to this thing early. He's probably getting another. Oh my God!
I bet he's getting 6 figures for his base contract.
Yeah, I don't know. It's 6. I heard for sure 6 figures. I don't know if it's for the year or for the 3 years, but a couple $100,000 just to do the series. So the 12,500 isn't bad. But the more then I started thinking about it, and this photo up here shows the 1,500 photo. He was right there in the 1,500. It's just sort of amazing how this thing's evaluated over the 2 races. You bomb in one and don't get top 3 in the other. It looks pretty bad. But I think you will see when we see this again in 4 weeks. If some people aren't good in the format or they don't like doubling, whatever it is. Now, next week's the same format next time. So he'll have the 15 first. But let's say it was reversed. Let's say for whatever reason he can't run a good 15 after coming back from an 8. I could see athletes getting disenchanted and being, oh my God, I don't want to be locked in this. I got to do 2 more of these before getting ready for Olympics and Worlds. Obviously, we're not at that stage yet because you're looking at this photo. Wait, he did pretty good in the 1,500. And then you said Bryce Hoppel wants to run these. Well, I guess so. But to me, okay, the next one's in Miami. Why would you bring him back? I barely even noticed Bryce Hoppel this weekend. I guess I noticed him in this race because he hung on. He went out. He's one of the 300 guys who kind of went with the leaders, but he was still getting dropped. He was a non-factor in all these races. But of course he wants to run them. He took home $15,000. And that's the thing where I was going to say this for later if we had some sort of big discussion, but all these Diamond League people, these Athlos people, they need to shut their traps up. They've been gloating on social media, acting like they're God's gift to track and field. And if they were, we wouldn't have had the Grand Slam track this weekend because the sport isn't popular. And Michael Johnson and crew are doing something to try to make it popular. And they're paying, sorry, Athlos, contrary to what you say, they're paying more than you. They couldn't figure out getting people in the seats, but they're paying the athletes more. And they're going to pay them more next week. Uh-oh, John's trying to.
Well, no, I'm just saying, you were saying contrary to what Athlos said. Athlos wasn't lying. When they offered that prize money, it was the biggest. Now, Grand Slam track has surpassed them, but $60K for the win for women's only race, that was the biggest that I was aware of for a single track meet. It was even bigger when the Diamond League final used to be $50K. So I don't think they were wrong. It's just Grand Slam track has now raised the bar.
I guess did I say they were wrong? But they're on social media. I'll put up here the thing in a second. Sort of, acting like they're God's gift to running. And then the Diamond League was tweeting stuff out today. I mean, the founder of the Diamond League had the harshest LinkedIn post I've ever seen about Michael Johnson. Clearly, this guy has a score to settle with Michael Johnson. And he's no longer with the Diamond League, but he was out there sounding his mouth off. And then the Diamond League had some tweets today as well. So here's the Athlos one of the ones from this weekend. I'm trying to get this comment off here. It says, they're showing the crowd. So the full crowd, it's dark, you notice, John, because there were some empty seats. We don't notice them as well when it's dark out. But they said, our first Athlos was a bold all-in risk, pulled off in just 5 months. But you showed up, packed the house, and turned it a game-changing night for the sport and the athletes we celebrated. We're beyond grateful. Let's keep raising the bar. I just don't like the timing of this stuff. I'm sorry. Don't be gloating. You know, you guys did a good event. You did a lot right, but there's a long way to go. And the track and field world is very tight knit. And I personally just did not like this at all.
I found it entertaining, but I took issue with them claiming they packed the house. I was at that meet. They didn't pack the house. They had a decent crowd. I wouldn't call it bad, but it's a 5,000 seat stadium. They didn't sell it out. You can see in that picture quite clearly, the one that's well lit, there are plenty of empty seats right by the finish line. So I think if you compare the highest attended Grand Slam Kingston, which would probably be the Saturday evening session, I think it would have been fairly comparable. And obviously they gave away a bunch of those tickets, but it's a lot easier to make something look good when you've got a 5,000 seat stadium versus 35,000. And I think that's one of the things Grand Slam track, when you look back at it, Kingston may not have been the best spot to launch this venture. Let's say they had flipped it and had the first meet in Miramar. That stadium's 5,000 seats. A lot easier to sell that thing out and make it look amazing. Like, look, fans couldn't wait to get here. Like, we've got demand exceeds supply, and the visuals, it's just a much better way to start the momentum up. And I think maybe that's something they would have explored in terms of looking at a different venue. But if you look at this weekend, there was already a meet at Miramar. So this weekend wasn't on the schedule, and they want to get these dates set ahead of time. They don't want to run up against the Diamond League, but yeah, Kingston, it's cool to, like, Michael Johnson, I asked him about this. I'm like, hey, run it back. Would you want to do it in Kingston again? And he said, hey, I think when we announced we were going to Kingston and having a major meet here, a lot of people were excited. It sounds good. And I agree with him. I think as a track fan, hearing, oh, we're going to go to Kingston, Jamaica, the home of sprints, like that's going to be great. And I'm in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I kind of agree with that. But then I think about it, I'm like, wait, no, the fans, they love champs. They don't really show up that much for the pro meets. And then you're launching this 3-day pro meet. That's a big ask. I don't think, the attendance, obviously the very first night just didn't look good. So yeah, that's something, but yeah, Robert, you clearly want to weigh in here.
There's one of the few takeaways here is, and I've been saying this again for 25 years as well. Can we admit the track is not popular, even in Jamaica or Kenya? It's not. People act like, oh, they're good because track is the number one sport. A lot of kids do track in Jamaica. But look, they love football in both countries. They're Premier League crazy in Kenya. I assume the same as in Jamaica. Like, someone posted on one of these YouTube channels somewhere. They're like, champs, it's not a track thing. It's like a high school social thing.
It's like Penn Relays. Penn Relays and Texas Relays get big crowds in the U.S. Pro track does not.
All right. Well, some hypotheticals, since a lot of this is the hypothetical. People are like, Hobbs Kessler would do amazing in this meet. I don't know if he would. Like, let's think about where Hobbs Kessler and Josh Hoey would do. I think the only one that would make a dent would be Josh Hoey. Hobbs Kessler would be what? At best, fourth in the 1,500, and at best, fourth in the 800. So that's 12, 8, 6, 5. So he gets 10 points. So 10 points. He ties Neil Gorley. He ties Cole. Actually, congrats to Neil Gorley. Apparently, he's won more money than Cole Hawker somehow. They both tied with 10 points. They got 25. Gorley gets the tiebreaker. If this is right, 25,000. Hawker gets 20,000. So he'd be right in the mix there. It actually drops off, So Hopple was 15,000. So he'd be in the hunt for the middle. But to really place well, you've got to be, obviously, if you want to win, you got to win one of the events. So I think
money's
Hoey
very front.
I think Hoey would be better than.
Okay, sorry about that. The money's very front loaded. I mean, you get third, it's 30 grand, right? It's 150, 30. So it drops up real quick and then sort of, then they all kind of get the same 30, whatever. 30 grand? Hey, Diamond League, I was putting up this tweet from the Diamond League. The global premier track and field league, 13 countries, 400,000 stadium spectators each season. They just happened to tweet that out today. I'm sure it's just randomly planned at first. I'm sure that was in their social media schedule. We'll just put that out on Sunday. You guys give $10,000 for the win. You know who got $10,000 this weekend? Mohamed Atoui of Spain, who ran terribly in both races. Last in one, second to last in the other. And he took home $10,000. That's the same as a Diamond League winner. So when we're watching a Diamond League and somebody's getting 4th or 5th place, no one cares. Here you're like, wow, for these guys, it's a lot of money. And at least for the hardcore fan, we can appreciate that. And there are some people here watching the Let'sRun.com live show, and they're asking, they don't even know stuff about the series, right? Like, we assume people know how this thing works. The casual fan has no clue how this works. Someone was asking, do the athletes get to choose their double? Which might be kind of interesting, right? Like, no, I want to do the 1500 this time. It might be, no, they're slotted into groups. So like the 8-15 is a group, the 4-2 is a group. They also have a 2-1 group, which is different. So except for the 8-15, I think it really is kind of a primary group generally. I mean, I guess unless you're a pure 200-meter runner, but most of the 100 guys favor the 100 over the 200. Most of the 4-2 group really was a 400 group, people stepping down to the 200, generally speaking, I would say. So the Diamond League is $20K for the winners. I think that's some meets.
No, that's only certain events. It's only the Diamond plus disciplines, of which I believe there are 4 per meet and 8 for the final. So they do get increased prize money, but that's only 4 events per meet. The regular events are still 10K.
In some ways, this is, all sports go through this. Like Michael Johnson seems to be trying to take the cream of the cream, get rid of the field events, and let a few people be rich. But Major League Baseball does that. The minor leaguers get nothing. Hell, most of the pros get nothing. You've really got to be on a team for like 5 years before you actually get paid. And then you get a little ridiculous sum of money, and it's all guaranteed for 7 years when you blow your arm out. So it's like LIV golf versus PGA Tour golf. Like, they didn't really change much, just the money changed. So the businessmen guys can think about that.
What people are responding to is there's a post here by All on the Game on the chat saying $20K for the Diamond League winners. And I thought that was the case until this weekend. I started Googling around, and no, it's still $10K for some events. Now, the Diamond League has tons of events at every meet, which I think is a problem. Diamond League founders saying it's a great thing. I don't think you necessarily have to drop field events. John, I don't know what it's like in stadium, because when you're there as a reporter, it is different. But the dead time between races, how are they filling it? I went to the San Francisco Giants home opener this weekend, and you just sort of forget, man. Baseball is like a social thing. I'm not a Giants fan. I mean, well, now they're my second team, I would say. But, I'm there for, well, we had to leave early too. Don't tell the people who gave us tickets. But you're watching the game, you're not watching the game. Oh, this batter's important. The bases are loaded, what have you. Like, there's just time to kill at any sporting event. How did they do that? I saw some cheerleaders a couple times, but like an NBA game, there is zero dead time for the fans. They're always
that's not true. They have commercial breaks in the NBA, and then they have replay review. They certainly have dead time in the NBA. But
John, a commercial break, they have music blaring. They have dancers on the field.
Okay. Fair enough.
I'll report back.
But
this week,
this meet. First of all, the dead time, it's not that much. I think you would see it honestly more at major global championships. Like, here's the schedule: women's 100 short hurdles, 242; men's 400 hurdles, 254; long distance final, women's 5K, 304; men's 100 hurdles, 329. Like, you're getting maybe a little under 10 minutes between races. And I asked a bunch of the fans in Kingston, I'm like, was the delay between events was like that annoying for you? Did did it take your interest? And they were like, no, not really. Like, they would interview the winner afterwards, so that takes another 2 or 3 minutes, and then they do the pre-race introductions for the next event. Like, in terms of the stuff where you're getting like absolutely nothing, in terms of no interview or no like pre-race introductions or anything like that, that's like 2 or 3 minutes, and you've got a DJ in there. It's really not that big a deal. I think they did have some cheerleaders and drummers in the stands. The problem is the cheerleaders were way off to the side in the general admission area where no one is. So you couldn't really get that effect. The drums you could hear throughout the stadium. But the delay between the events, I don't think that was a big deal for most fans. Some of them did say, hey, it would be nice to have the field events. I kind of miss having the field events. But I don't think the delay between the races was a huge deal in stadium.
Were you there when the high school races were going on, John? I was thinking about this.
I was on Saturday, not on Sunday.
Was it actually like, were people into that? Like, was it actually, it sounds like the champs, you kind of race ninth graders versus ninth graders, 10th graders versus 10th graders. And this is going to be everybody racing. Like, were they into it? Were they going all out, or were they just going through the motions?
People were kind of into it, but the stadium, the the main grandstand where you have to pay for the seats, that hadn't filled up yet. The general admission area wasn't totally full, though they had some people, but you know, there was some excitement. I wouldn't say they were as into it as they were for the pro sections, but the men's and women's, girls and boys 100, those races they were into. They were like, some guy apparently in the boys 100 didn't run that well at champs last week, and they were saying, "Oh, can he get redemption?" And then he wins, and like all the Jamaican journalists were like so pumped. They were like fist pumping and stuff across the finish line. They were also really happy about it. So that it was a pretty big deal for them. But yeah, I think the pro races still got more attention. I mean, I'll say one of the biggest one of the most hyped event, or sorry, not most hyped, but biggest crowd reactions of the whole weekend was the flat 100 in the short hurdles event group, because Danielle Williams and Akira Nugent, who are two Jamaicans, went 1-2. And the crowd definitely realized that, because they were going nuts. They were screaming for 2 or 3 minutes after the race had finished because the Jamaicans went 1-2 on the Americans. So, they loved that one.
Okay, a few points of order here. People are saying, "Oh, Sydney can switch events." No, I mean, all I was trying to say is you're locked into your event. You don't pick it at the meet. She may have some input at the next meet, which theory she doubles in, but she can't decide to, like, say, do the 400 hurdles and the 100 for whatever reason. It's the combined events are predetermined. And then somebody's saying here, "I went to the San Francisco Giants home opener." You can't write this stuff out. What am I missing, John? Like, that's what the team's called, right?
I don't really understand the point that's being made there. By the way, Oracle Park, great stadium. I've been to probably about 10 major league venues. That's my favorite. It's right on the bay. Like, lovely place to watch a game. I'd go to the San Francisco Giants home opener if I had, got tickets. It'd be awesome.
It was stunning. Oh yeah, I want to go back. I mean, like, I'd been once before, same thing, John, because I heard how nice it was. And they were celebrating the 25th anniversary.
We don't care.
Meanwhile, the Texas Rangers knocked down their stadium with
Robert, you're just jealous because you've never been. If you'd been there, you'd know. All right, let's get back to track and field.
Should we talk about Sydney? I need to make a rare correction.
Okay.
I said that Neil Gorley beat Cole Hawker in the tiebreaker. He did not. Cole Hawker beat Neil Gorley in the tiebreaker, so he won $25,000 to Hawker's 20. And that's part of the problem, though. Their website is so bad. Like, one of my pet peeves is part of the problem with track and field is, like, I don't care about the sprints. Half these sprinters I've never heard of. Let's Run is focused on distance races, but I think one way to make people to care. When I was a kid, there was no Let's Run. There was no, these meets weren't broadcast. You looked in the stats page of the thing, and you would look for like a Diamond League result, and like you'd see Steve Holman 335, but you had no idea if they went out slow. You see 1320, you didn't know if they kicked, but you had text results for all the events. You cannot make a results page. I had to get Chat GPT to I had to take a picture of the results page and say, because I wanted to show the overall series winner as well and the prize money. It doesn't exist on their webpage. So when people tie, they don't break the tiebreaker on there. Anyways, Bruce has an interesting concept here on YouTube. He's a good thinker. I'm not quite sure. They should have one champion per event group with a super lucrative contract. He can be unsuited by the challengers. I'm not sure how that would work. Is it kind of like you're the heavyweight champion? We have said this, like, we should have a Let's Run champion, and then, like, you're the number one marathoner in the world until you get beat. You have the belt. And then the person who beats you has the belt. So I don't know how that would work with Grand Slam. And what if you don't show up?
Oh yeah, you're gone. That's a good point. You're the champion. You get like $250K or something. And this would be more interesting, right? And then, but if you lose, you're not out of the next meet. Someone else gets a shot. Something like that.
But the problem
out of the next meet. I mean, you want to keep your stars if you can, but
that's the problem.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, well,
Right.
then how do you make less money than that? Well, you don't win the big money. Yeah, they should somehow acknowledge the champion the next meet. Or if you're the challenger and you win, you automatically get to come back. Okay, another big takeaway I want is the Diamond League and stuff, they better shut their traps because athletes now are going to be knocking on the door to get in these meets, assuming they want to double. But the money is so much better. Now, they do have to work twice as hard as at a Diamond League, and there may be some downsides to this, but if Bryce Hoppel's decide this is okay for his training, of course he's knocking at the door to do this. How much money do we say he made? 15 G's? You didn't even notice him. He never gets that in Europe. You know, and he was fourth at the Olympics. I bet you he's never made 15 G in a meet. Like, because the only way you're getting that is if you get an appearance fee. What?
But Marco A-Rop probably does make that. He's the Olympic fucking champion.
Well, he's not actually. And do you think Marco Arop's getting a $15,000 appearance fee for Diamond Leagues? I'm not sure about that, Robert.
No, I'm saying all inclusive. A lot of times Diamond League just says you're getting this.
Yeah, you got to run well. I like not a ton of athletes are getting big appearance fees in Diamond Leagues. The very big stars are, but after that, I think it drops out pretty quick.
I feel like the Diamond League did. Do we know what their total prize money is? They had something out this week stating what the cumulative payout was. I feel like it's more than Grand Slam track, but they have a lot more meets. But I think it's like 16 million. They said cumulative to athletes or something like that. I shouldn't be quoting this number without. But the gist was overall more money is going to athletes through the Diamond League, but it's a ton more athletes and it's a lot more meets.
Yeah, you got to go to the Instagram page for maybe to look at that post they had bragging about stuff this weekend. One other thing, Weldon, if we're talking about like ideas to tweak it or like having like some sort of heavyweight belt or something like that, I do love all the events where you have like the prize is right there, like on the field of play, watching for everyone. It's like those wrestling main events where the Money in the Bank thing, the briefcase is dangling above the ring, or the World Cup where the trophy is just on the sideline. Like, I would love it for this thing if, you know, the 100K is like at the finish line and the first person, you know, if you win there, you get to go there. And they did a nice little award ceremony at the end where Michael Johnson handed out like golden envelopes to all of the slam champions. But I feel like that would be kind of fun. It's like how they give the medals out. They did it right away at the 2022 World Championships. As soon as you cross the finish line, you get the medal and it's hanging there right at the track. I always like events like that where you've got these props ready to reward like as soon as the thing's over. That's kind of fun, you know, fun wrinkle.
All right, let's talk women's distance. It's 86 degrees, full sun. I mean, I guess this woman is one of the world's best distance runners. She's run under 29 minutes on the roads. Agnes Ngedic just takes it out hard. What was she running? Like 14:30 pace or something ridiculous? Gaps the field instantly. Give her credit for that. Taye didn't initially go with her, reeled her in about halfway in, and then sat on her. And it was interesting watching the TV broadcast. Steve Cram's like, my coach used to say, when you catch him, Steve, just go right by. I think that's good coaching advice. But she didn't. She sat because she'd outkicked her in the 5 and in the 3 and assumed she would outkick her in the 5. Wasn't a crazy assumption because Ngedic showed that she's not used to running on the track. I mean, she was running like basically in lane 2 once she got caught for some reason. Told John that the wind was blowing her out there. I don't know how the wind could blow you. It's a circle. How could the wind blow you out to the same part of the track the entire way around? Maybe on one side.
She wasn't doing it for the first half of the race. She only started doing it when Taye was right next to her. It was just
this shows you how, like, I used to say, like, I predicted that Grant Fisher would eventually medal. How we went sometimes the women medal in 10K because there's a lot of talent on the roads. There's not even trying in track. And Geddes would be one of those women if it wasn't probably for Grand Slam track, although she said she wants to do 10,000 worlds. But Taye blows her away in the last 250. It made me nervous when Taye went to the lead. I'm like, I would still sit on her, just sit. But I guess it just felt so easy for her.
But
you know,
Robert, you're understating how much extra distance Agnes Ngedic ran in this race. Taye caught her with about halfway through the race, and essentially the entire final 2,000 meters, Ngedic ran next to her on the outside of lane 1 or sometimes in lane 2. And I was just watching it flabbergasted. I get if you move out to see if Taye would take up the pace, And I did ask her, like, was this just, were you moving out to lane, the outside of the lane so that you weren't blocking the win for her? And she said no. And that just astounded me. I'm like, you are penalizing yourself. You're making it harder for no reason by running in the outside of lane 1. I've seen a thing Mo do it, and it drives me crazy. But to do it for the last 5 or 6 laps of a distance race is just insanity. It was crazy.
Don't make this racial. Don't make this racial. Parker Valboy doesn't know how to run tangents and cross-country courses. We've seen this from a lot of top pros. It's just a pet peeve of yours.
Don't you make things racial when I name 2 black athletes, and then you immediately assume it's because I'm talking about their race, not because they're not running the right amount of distance.
Just following the footsteps of the leaders of our Democratic Party, John.
Democratic Party, Robert. I don't want to get into a political debate, but I would say that your political leanings seem to like to make everything about race and identity as well. So I'll leave it at that.
How is Fisher running for third any different than the leader of the Masters laying up for 18th hole to ensure victory? Because for me, it wasn't clear that he was ensuring victory. Mike Cooper-Tier could still out kick him. So.
Well, the Masters guy could still hit the next shot into the water. I mean, it could drop down.
Was
San Francisco, that's
San
Francisco's second finest right there. Although I think he'll claim to be from Southern California right there. All these San Francisco people, I'm new to this city, and they're all on here chiming in on the comments. This is great. But I'm wondering why. But then I realized, wait, it's like late in the rest of the country.
I was going to say, it's 11:15 right now on the East Coast. You're getting the West Coast bump there.
This is why we don't do the show live in normal podcast, because if we overtalk each other, I try to talk over John. Was this a good weekend for Cooper-Tier? It sounded like yesterday he's like, he thinks he's made a big jump because he was close to Grant Fisher in a slow race. Like, yeah, if it's a 15-minute race, your 1,500 meter speed is going to play well with Grant Fisher. I do think psychologically it was good for him. Like, he thinks that he's made the jump, and you said it was a great weekend for Grant Fisher, but did Grant Fisher, I know he won $100,000, but maybe he thinks Dylan Jacobs and Cooper-Tier are like, well, I wasn't that far behind him.
No, I thought it was good because Grant is not at a point in his season where his last lap should be really, really good. And his last lap was great in both races. So if I'm Grant, I'm walking away and saying, I won 100K. I won the 5K. I closed well in both races. And it's only April. I'm in a great spot right now. So yes, I would say this was definitely good news for Grant Fisher. And I also, just the way I analyze these races, I know Hagos Gebrewitt destroyed him today, but I don't look at that and be like, oh man, he's in real trouble when he faces Gebrewitt in Tokyo, because Gebrewitt has shown repeatedly he's mistimed his kick. He did it at the Olympics. He did it again in this Grand Slam meet. And Fisher wasn't even trying to really beat him today. He was just racing for third. So I'm not going to be like, oh man, this is really bad news. It's like, I didn't even get a read on where he stacks up against.
Is Hagos a racer?
Hagos is a racer, yes.
Wait, we have no show. Okay. Can I coach him, John? Can you contact his agent? Say I'd like to coach him for the next slam. Take over all training, actually, me and John Kellogg.
I think whether you want to coach him or not really has no bearing on whether you will be able to coach him.
The beauty is, look,
it's like Greg saying he's going to get his play put out on Broadway.
Steve Cram said it best when Gedich and Taye were running the women's race. He's like, look, there's this. I couldn't believe he said this because it's not politically correct, but I loved it. He said, there's a saying in track and field: if it comes down to the last lap between a Kenyan and Ethiopian, go with the Ethiopian. And that's certainly what happened there. I almost want to say, if there's a saying between, this sounds crazy, but if there's a race between an American and an Ethiopian, who's going to make a tactical mistake? It's going to be the Ethiopian. And Grant Fisher's kick looks really good. It's hard because these Ethiopians, they tried to rabbit the 10K out in the Olympics. You do all the work and you tire yourself out. You need one sacrificial lamb. John doesn't like it.
Well, wait a second. I mean, who had the higher finish in the Olympic 10K? An Ethiopian or an American?
in Ethiopia, my boy Argawi did it. Thank you.
Yeah.
But if I'm Hagos, you don't have there's not a lot of Ethiopian bodies here. There's not a lot of help. You have two options. Try to get some other African guy and you to alternate the lead, push the pace to beat Fisher. But what I would tell him to do is just sit on Grant. Don't make any big moves. See what happens. See if you can outkick him. He probably can't, but he's never tried it. Do that in the first race. You just need to finish close to him in the first race. So are they going to change the order? Hopefully next time the 3K is first because that's his worst event. If you're Hagos, I'll just tell him one thing. Just sit on Grant Fisher. Just follow him around the track on the rail. Shut your brain off for 4,000 meters. Run on the rail. Do not move. Do not do any energy. Just sit there. Do what Grant Fisher does. Do not waste any energy. And then when 1,000 meters to go, me, Robert Johnson, your coach, I will blow a horn in the stadium. And it'll go beep, 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 beep. And that means you're supposed to lock onto Grant Fisher's back. And I'll have told him, I'll show him a picture of what his singlet looks like. So he'll know it's Grant Fisher. And then you follow him around and you do not take the lead until there's 50 meters to go. And then you blow by him.
You think that Hagos Gebrewhite needs a picture of Grant Fisher to be able to identify him? You
just
don't
want to be
think you'll
sure,
able
John.
to-
These Mizungos all look the same. And then if that doesn't work, you try to hammer the 5. You just push it and hope. Oh, if it's hot. I actually think that the easiest way to drop Grant maybe is the heat. If Grant's not a good hot runner, 86 degrees, I think the Africans are tougher than the Americans. Grant's a pretty Stanford boy.
Well, he's from Michigan. I mean, I guess it doesn't get, the summers get a little muggy there, but I was thinking about like tough winter in the winter.
We're getting more and more viewers. We're up to over 700 now.
Okay. A few points just from some of these comments. More San Francisco people chiming in. Where should we have the next meetup? I realized I got a phone call. I didn't see it till this weekend. People wanted to have a meetup to watch the meet because we had a successful meetup for Milrose. But my only issue was I wasn't sure if the bar could put up WB.
San Francisco people, Weldon is often busy on the weekend. He wasn't helping John and I work. We were working on the upper management. He just goes to the parties and the San Francisco Giants. Like, are you getting any sponsorships?
All about building community. I think Ohanian was coding at the meet. No, he's watching the meet. I know. Great job, guys.
Can we
You guys
send
did
Weldon
all
off
the
to
work.
City?
Everyone should appreciate that.
Can we make
John
a
was
trade?
slaving away, Robert too with the recaps, and I literally did no work.
We'll just send Weldon to Sidious Mag for nothing, for cash considerations, because Weldon's now won't let me criticize people anymore. It's like, we got to get brand sponsors now. I'm like, oh my God.
Well, sometimes, Robert, I am with Weldon on some of those things. Sometimes I feel like you just want to take shots and piss people off for no reason. I was all right, Weldon. I wanted to highlight this comment by Jonathan Toteman in the chat. I realized that everybody has already given the Tokyo 5,000 gold to Jakob, but Grant is putting in the work. And I wanted to do a vibe check with you guys. Is anything you've seen so far this year from Grant Fisher, the 2 world records indoors, Grand Slam track victory, is any of that bad news for Jakob Ingebrigtsen?
No.
No.
No, I will say
I'm not worried either, honestly. But I really do think like Grant and Mike Scannell, they are not ceding this gold medal to Jakob Ingebrigtsen in the 5K. And obviously, you have to be really insanely good to beat Jakob, because I do think you look at the list of the all-time great 5,000 meter runners in championships, I think he's already way, way up there. He's won 3 straight gold medals in this event. And like I said earlier on our Bold Predictions podcast, I think he's going to break 12:30 in the 5,000 this year if he actually gives it a real go. So, yeah, it's really, really hard to beat. But Mike Scannell and Grant Fisher are thinking about it. They know he's the guy that he needs to beat if he's going to win the 5K. And they're trying their darndest to figure out, all right, how do I get in the best possible shape? How do I attack him tactically? What parts of the race do we need to work on? It's a Herculean task, but can you imagine the Let's Run homepage if Grant Fisher takes down Jakob Ingebrigtsen in the 5,000 meters? I mean, the last times an American took down Jakob to win a global title, the Let's Run homepage actually did crash when Cole Hawker did it in Paris. So we might get a repeat of that if it happens in the 5K.
Grant doesn't scare me yet for Jakob because Jakob's just so good at the 5K. mean, maybe the 3K should change a little bit. But Grant was probably my biggest winner for the weekend of the distance runners. Or Wanyonyi was, well, he was still great. He just focused on that kick in the, let's see, which race was that? The 3K? No, the 5K was first, right? He was so far back and had to like pass all these guys. Now, granted, maybe some of them aren't very good, but just to like stay focused, 51, he's just focused on top end speed. Even today, he sort of, and people are like, well, he beat Cooper Tier. Who cares? Well, Cooper Tier is actually pretty good in slow races with a kick. So Grant winning the 10K, I mean, it just keeps going up and up and up. The 5K to me is a different animal.
The problem is I'm struggling to envision this race scenario in which Grant Fisher would beat Jakob Ingebrigtsen. I just think he's still got a lot of work to do. Like David Minter is saying here in the comments, Jakob ran a terrible tactical race, was boxed when the break came. You know, he's talking about the Olympic final in Paris, and won easily. I mean, I don't know if I call it a terrible tactical race. He wasn't in good position to respond to the move when Gebrewedt made it, but yes, he still won that thing comfortably. And Grant Fisher was in that race. He was not close to Jakob. So that should, like Mike Scannell said this when I talked to him earlier this year. He said the margin of victory, you know, it was a second and a half or so from Jakob to Grant, maybe 1.6 seconds. But in reality, it was a lot more than that because the fitness gaps, it was not 1.6 seconds. Like winning an Olympic 5K title by more than a second is quite a lot. So, yeah, still what to do, but it's an interesting question to ponder. Maybe we'll revisit it later in the year.
And that's another guy who had a great meet was Cooper Tier. Sort of been forgotten. One, he takes home $30,000 for him. I assume his contract's not very big now, but he is very popular. So he might be paid disproportionately to performance, sort of like Drew Hunter. But it's also interesting how the money is, because I thought Dylan Jacobs was pretty much right with him. Cooper actually beat him by one spot in both races. He takes home 30 and Dylan takes home 15. I mean, that's half. And if you win the Diamond League, you get 10. So Diamond League people, keep your mouth shut still, please. Thank you very much. That's the common theme of this podcast.
Well, then that's like the last time you're allowed to talk about prize money. You've made the same point 3 times now. Can we talk about Sydney? Like, she's like supposed to be the headliner of the whole series. She was the first athlete who signed. Sydney McLaughlin-Lavroni, and everyone's like, oh, well, she gets to run. We see Sydney run. She never runs. She signed up to run. She's running a flat 100. This is a flat 400. Well, unfortunately, this was just one of, I mean, she won easily, obviously, like everyone expected to her. This is exactly what we predicted beforehand, that she'll crush everyone in her 2 events and we'll leave it frustrated that she didn't get to run the 400 against the actual 400 runners, which was an insanely amazing race on Saturday night. And then instead of being part of that, Sydney runs the 400 against the hurdlers on Sunday afternoon. It's super windy, so she doesn't even get the chance to really run fast. She runs 50.32. No one else in the race broke 52 seconds. So it's just a bummer for her. But we did, you know, I got the chance to talk to her in the mix zone after the race, and she was asked, are you going to run in any other event groups moving forward? And she essentially lined up what they are planning on doing the rest of the season. So the tentative plan is 400 hurdles again in Miramar a month from now. Then drop down and do the 100 hurdles, the short hurdles group in Philadelphia at the end of May. And then for the final slam, June 27th to 29th in Los Angeles, she would do the 200, 400 group. And that would be against Paulino and NASA, assuming they're all healthy, which, knowing a little bit about how Bobby Kersey has approached things with Sydney in the past, makes sense. He doesn't like to put her in races unless she's really, you know, big, important races, unless she's ready to go. And so giving them the maximum amount of time to take on the big dogs, Paulino and NASA, I can understand. But that's 12 weeks away. It's a long time, but I'm already getting excited about that. It'll be in LA. It'll be on Sydney's home track at UCLA. And I've been told by multiple people from Grand Slam track, they're like, "Oh, are you coming back for any other Grand Slam meets, to cover them?" And I'm like, I'm not really sure. I mean, I was here for this one. I'm not sure if I'll go to the next few. And they're like, "Oh, you should come to LA. Like, LA is going to be, we think it's really going to be special." And I was like, "Oh, okay, what's going on?" So they're thinking like maybe just not just the athletes that they're going to have running there, but sounds like they're going to try to get some, some big time celebs and so that sort of thing. So they have high hopes for LA, and certainly I would be that, that'll be one of the races of the season if you get to see Sydney in a flat 400 against Paulino and NASA.
They'll have hired me or stolen my as a technological consultant, or stolen my ideas, so they'll hopefully have the TV working. Look, I think that's fine. I actually wonder how she could do in the 110 hurdles, 100. Is she we keep saying we're not interested in these things. I think she might be faster than the 110 hurdlers in the flat 100. Am I crazy to think that? And she's a pretty good hurdler, so could she possibly win that event? What a sick athlete if she wins every event group. 3 different
That
event
actually would be interesting. Well, not 110 hurdlers, 100 hurdlers, but yeah, who would you take in a flat 100? Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone or the women's 100 hurdle athletes? I think I'd take Sydney, honestly.
By the way,
like she beat Gabby Thomas in a 200 last year. So yeah, I think I'm leaning Sydney.
Rojo's number one fans is here on YouTube. Did I coach you at Cornell? Yes or no? Just put it in the chat. I think I know who you are. Are your initials RM or is that somebody else? But Sydney today was just doing pace work. She was just that's ingrained in her. She almost ran exactly to her 400 hurdle PB, right? It's 50.7. What'd she run today?
Wait a second.
She ran 50.37.
Hurdles world record is now, is it 50.37? Is that the world record?
Yeah, and what'd she run today?
She ran 50.32.
Yeah. So
I used to be really good at knowing like all the world records. The problem is Sydney's broken it 6 times in the last like 4 years. So keeping up with that, I was like, 50.68, that'll be the record forever. And then she breaks it twice last year. So it throws me off.
I don't want to get in trouble because I wasn't supposed to tell this, but somebody wants to know where they can book their tickets to see Jakob's time trial in the 5,000. I would just guess if he was going to break the world record, that he would try to do it at home.
I don't think this is some like grand secret. I've heard a few people sort of suggest that he might be trying to break the world record in Oslo this year in the 5,000. I don't know if that's for sure happening. I can't confirm it, but there's some buzz around that meet.
And back to Sydney. So, Jen, 400 hurdles next time, you said again, right?
That is the plan for now, yes. Well, she basically said, she said that her plan was to run 100 hurdles in Philly and 400, 200 in LA. And she said she thinks she would only run the 400 hurdles once more. So I used deductive reasoning to say Miami.
Sydney, people are asking here, is she a millionaire? Yes, she's a millionaire. She makes over $1 million a year from New Balance. And she got paid, I don't know.
And she breaks the world record twice a year, and she's got two individual Olympic goals. She probably made a bunch of bonuses that are rolling over too.
Right. She's got other outside stuff. She could probably be a model. I mean, all that stuff helps. And she's probably getting at least $500,000 per year for Grand Slam, if not more, just to show up. So the $100,000, it's interesting that she do the other one, but she wants a challenge, I guess. I don't know. And she has done the short hurdles before. I guess somehow she thinks it helps her with the long hurdles. But yeah, John, I think she probably would beat most of them in the 100. I mean, if she can beat Gabby Thomas in a 2, she can't be that slow in 100. Just sort of crazy how good she is. But yeah, today, I totally agree with Jonathan Turdeman. They really should somehow have a thing, just be like, and this would generate attention. Now, I don't know long-term if a series wants this or something, but it's like, okay, Sydney's going to run the 400 hurdles. The other girls are going to run the flat, and we're going to see who comes out on top.
You're kind of demeaning the other athletes, but at the same time, like, I would definitely want to see that as a fan of the sport.
So I'm not sure why Robert's showing us Bolt. People are saying Rojo looks fitter himself.
Yeah, I don't know what Robert's doing here. All right. Any other final thoughts? We've been going for almost an hour and a half here, and we haven't even talked about Taylor Rowe or Charles Hicks or anything. So that's Carl Lewis, Robert.
Why is Robert showing us like the all-time greats of track and field? Now he's showing us the Cornell team. Okay, this is getting weird. Paul Turgot.
Okay, Robert, make your point, please.
What is your point, Rojo?
I have fans watching on the chat. They don't want to hear what you're talking. I wasn't interrupting. The podcast listeners were just the people that were watching live were just getting to see all the track and field paraphernalia I have on my office wall. Signed Usain Bolt cover from Track and Field News.
Okay, I'm muting him. We don't need to hear this.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, John.
Oh, wait, y'all couldn't hear me. I was just showing the fans while y'all were talking.
No, we muted you.
We could hear you, and we muted you because we didn't care what you were saying anymore. So, well then, continue.
Okay. People are saying, oh, they're excited for the Diamond League. Yeah, there's more to be excited about in the track. And I think we should have an article this week. There's positives with this. There's positives with the Diamond League. There's positives with Athlos. And there's a lot of criticism for all three. You can say what they should do better. And I think I understand they're competitors. But ultimately, short-term for the athletes, it's very good. They're just going to cash in and make a lot more money. So if you're an athlete, grab the bag while you can. But it's sort of also interesting because the top people, they didn't get them. Grand Slam track did not get them. I like you said, if you told me 6 months ago, not one of the top sprint stars would be there. I mean, Fred Curley, whatever. I would have said that's not possible. So maybe now they'll double down for Miami.
Gabby Thomas.
Okay, they had
Olympic
Gabby,
200
fine.
champ.
But of the 100 people, the Jamaican sprinter, Gabby Thomas, and they already had Sydney.
Here's my thing, Weldon. I enjoyed this meet. I thought the men's 1500 was sensational. I thought the women's 400 was terrific. There were a few other fun races. But their whole aim with Grand Slam track is you're bringing in an audience, people who tune in for the Olympics only. You're trying to get them to become track fans and fans of Grand Slam track. And I still think that's a monumental challenge because I look at this and I'm like, yeah, there were some great races. I saw some really big stars. But guess what? I get that 15 times of the year in the Diamond League. Not every single Diamond League is amazing, but most Diamond Leagues have some of the biggest names in the sport and have 2 or 3 outstanding races. We do these post-meet shows after the Diamond League. We've always got something to talk about. There's always some event that's hot. So how different is this from the Diamond League? And is it different enough to draw in this entirely new audience? I'm not entirely sure. I think for the track nerds, they love these hypothetical matchups that are actually becoming reality. And they like seeing a star like Sydney show up and run a couple times. But in terms of is this going to tap into a market that the Diamond League couldn't access? I'm still not sold on that. And I guess we need more evidence for the rest of the season, but I don't know what to say. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you there.
Yeah, I would have bet a lot of money, actually. If the over-under was 50% of Sydney showing, I would have thought maybe somehow she didn't make it. I mean, she races more than we probably give her credit to. But, yeah, what made Sydney show up?
Money.
Money. People can say, oh, she's into the series or whatever. No, it's money. She showed up at a Diamond League last year in the season racing an exhibition race because of money. And I said all along, I could get people to race in my backyard, but I don't have a yard anymore with enough money. And I think the one thing, if you're a casual fan turning in, you did not see people in the seats. The visuals were pretty poor. There's no hiding that. Grand Slam track needs to take it. Go to Miramar. It's a tiny, tiny venue. Maybe they bring in Lyles or Sha'Carri for that one. There'll be a lot of buzz. Oh my God, Lyles or Sha'Carri's in Miami. It's then you're building positive momentum. You start with this. You survived. There's some great competition. A lot to improve. next step, boom. And then the money is there, at least for this series. I think more and more you can get athletes. Well, I'm assuming they're going to pay more than the $2,000 appearance fee for some of them. If that's the case, they're not going to get. You will not get Noah Lyles. Will not have Sha'Carri for any of these Grand Slams. But
You might.
anyway, because they want to what? Oh, they want to get the 100K. They can go, Robert. They can go run a Diamond League for 100K appearance.
For the long distance events, they said they run the same distance twice, e.g., 2 by 1,500, with one rabbited and one non-rabbited. But what do the 800 guys do? See, I don't think a rabbit matters in the 800. Give A-Rob some credit. Even he said to John, he's like, wasn't sure if I was going to take that thing out and that win, but I decided to.
Yeah,
And
can
it
we give
worked out.
credit to
All
the
right.
dude? Just going for it, like not afraid to block the wind. I know he's a big guy, so it kind of helps him with the wind more than a smaller guy, but total credit to Marco Arop for going out there and just having no fear. I'm going to lead this thing. I don't care if I'm blocking the wind for Wanyonyi, and he beat him anyway. Like, that was a great run for him.
All right, let's talk Cherry Blossom 10 miler. It's a road
Wait,
race.
no, wait, one more thing. Wait, one more thing, because maybe we're showing our biases here. There's a guy here saying Kung Fu Kinney looked great. And somebody also said something about Melissa Jefferson. In what is the marquee events of the sport, the 100 meters, Kung Fu Kinney, Melissa Jefferson swept the 100 and 200. And we've not mentioned them once on this podcast. Now, some of that shows our bias, but I think also some of it shows the fields they were racing, John, or maybe we're as sprints, you're more focused on the times, and with the conditions early in the season, you don't care. Why do we think that is? Because there are times there's a Diamond League 100 and we're all over it.
Right. No, I would say with the men's 100, it was a good field, but the race wrapped up on Saturday night, so it wasn't really fresh. Like, we weren't thinking, oh, we need to chime in on it. Like, we're recording this episode Sunday night. It's not really fresh in my mind. The women's 200, I guess the women's 100, 200 group, it is actually kind of the same thing. It's different because the field wasn't as strong. Like Jenna Prandini, all props to her. She found out she was running this race. Her coach called her on Wednesday night and said, do you want to go run in Jamaica this weekend? She said, sure. She shows up, you get second in the 100, second in the 200, gets 50K. So that's just really like great weekend for her. But yeah, you look at this field, I guess Jacia Sears, she was one of the great hopes in this event because she had that 10-7 when she was running at Tennessee last year. And then she had a really good indoor season until USA's, where she gets beat. And then in the 100 on Saturday, she got beat by Jenna Prandini, gets third place. That's really like, if you're Jacia Sears, 23 years old, you would want to be beating a 32-year-old Jenny Prandini in that race. So not an amazing weekend for her. That's my takeaway. And then Melissa Jefferson Wooden, she's now got the hyphenated last name because she's married. She took care of business. Once Brittany Brown scratched, you're like, all right, she's the class of this field. She really should be winning. And she did. She wasn't up against, I guess she was, Daryl Nader was in this meet, who was fourth in the Olympics. And, so I guess I shouldn't totally say it was really weak. But in terms of like the two big stars in her event, Sha'Carri Richardson and Julian Alfred, and neither of them were here. So you can't totally stack her up against that. It didn't help that the wind for this race was negative 4.7 meters per second. That is one of the biggest headwinds I've ever seen in 11 years of covering track and field. It's insane. She ran 23:46. They're more than 2 seconds off the world record. So that's another reason I think we didn't really talk about it. It's just the wind. Jefferson took care of business, but the wind was just nuts.
We didn't talk about it because I lost $200 betting Daryl Nader to win that thing. I didn't know though, because she was in like lane 3 or 4. She had to run into more wind than the poor other girl. The wind screwed me over. I would have won $800. Damn it.
And one other thing I think, and this is where the format is, because we said the format did bring on some great races, but it took away some good races as well. Gabby Thomas is the best 200-meter runner. Well, she wasn't racing the 100, 200 girls. So she was racing a bunch of primarily 400 runners coming down to the 200. She should beat them. She did. And then she's probably more likely to be challenged by a 100, 200 meter sprinter. She's not going to be challenged by any of these, I don't think. But ideally, I would like to see somehow everyone, all the best 200 meters running 1-200, all the best 400 meters running 1-400, that sort of thing.
All right, Robert, let's go to your neck of the woods, Washington, D.C., the Cherry Blossom 10-miler. Taylor Rowe, the 2022 NCAA indoor champion in the 3,000 meters, and the 2025 U.S. half marathon champion. She was your big winner on the women's side. Statement victory. I mean, the last few months have been so impressive for Taylor Rowe. She debuts in the half marathon in Houston, 68:48. You're like, all right, whatever. Super shoes. That's not all that, insane. She got beat convincingly by Wayne Coladi. Her next race, the U.S. half marathon champs in Atlanta, shows up 67:22 on a really hilly course and gets the win. Suddenly we're like, all right, Taylor Rowe. Now she shows up to Cherry Blossom, destroys the field, 49:53. She crushes the previous course record of 51:14. She gets under the American record as well. The previous fastest 10 miles was Wayne Coladi's 50:05 first 10-mile split in Houston in January at the half marathon. And the other crazy thing, she set, according to David Monty here, national 10K and 15K records en route. Her first 10K this morning was 30:56. She ran the 10 last weekend and ran 30:58. So she ran faster and then ran another 10K and a 1.1K to the finish. So just a breakout spring for Taylor Rowe. Really, really impressive. And
John,
she does seem to doubt herself. I think her confidence a little bit, but she's in insane shape and has been kicking ass.
she did not run 2 10Ks today, John. 10 miles is less than 20.
Oh, shoot. I was thinking she ran a half marathon. All right. You're totally right there, Robert. Good. Damn it. But it was a lot more longer than 10K. 10 miles is not 10K.
It's a rare mistake by John. It's one of the worst he'll make.
I'm thrilled
Something
by
I
this
would make daily.
It's a beer and a half deep on the red stripe. Blame that.
The Oklahoma State grads are Midwest tough. Great Plains tough. Dave Smith, I feel like he's underrated. Doesn't coach at altitude, just consistently wins. Plus, he's roughly my age and returns my phone calls. Nice guy. But it's just insane. The sexism and Let's Run disgusted me. There was a Charles Hicks 45:14 thread that was super hot most of the morning. Great run for both of them. Did we talk about Hicks, John? Did you mention what he did?
No, I said at the very top. But yeah, Charles Hicks, who has been previously competing for Great Britain, but has been a U.S. citizen since birth because he's got American parents. He won this race 45:14, just edging out Alex Mayer, who is like Taylor Rowe, an Oklahoma State alum, running for Puma Elite Distance now. And he got the national title, and I was confused because I see this finish line picture and Charles Hicks has the American flag draped over his shoulders. I'm like, wait a minute. I thought only the Americans got to do that. And reached out to his agent. Well, I reached out to Matt Sonnenfeld, who works for Flynn Sports, which is his agency. And he clarified that, yes, he is trying to become eligible to represent the United States. That requires waiting 3 years since your last competition representing a different country. That would have been the 2023 European under 23 championships, which means he'd have to wait 3 years till July 2026 to become eligible to represent a different member federation, which would be the United States. So he's working his way through that process. But in the meantime, he's allowed to compete in USATF championships that are non-selection events. So there's no, World 10-mile champs. So he can run this and he can get the prize money as the U.S. champion. he just can't set a U.S. record because he's not eligible to compete for the United States right now. So Alex Maya, even though he finished second in the U.S. championships, actually broke the U.S. 10-mile record here with his 45:15. So I think we have our first Truth is Stranger Than Fiction entry for 2026 because a guy broke the American record while finishing second in a U.S. championship.
And losing to another American, but he's not
Right.
American in terms of running. But yeah, look, a few other results down here. There are some disappointing results, to be honest. Joe Klecker, the guy just keeps laying eggs on the roads. 46.08, 9th place. Drew Hunter, 46.16, 10th. I don't know where these guys go. Like, they're not quite good enough still on the track. And Klecker was really, I mean, if you told me at the beginning of the year that Joe Klecker is going to be this bad at the half marathon and finishing 9th, and this was a guy that was consistently top 3 in the 10,000. I thought at least he was too big for me to be good at the marathon, but I would think at the half marathon and the 10 mile, he would be hitting better than this, and he's not. And this was supposed to be a test for Drew Hunter on the road. So it's a lot. It's very competitive nowadays, but disappointing for them. But back to Taylor Rowe. I mean, a world's best for, and I guess Grant Fisher, has 2 world records, but it's just kind of cool. Now, what does 49.53 actually mean? And what does 45.14 mean? I've asked the great John Kellogg, the man that took Weldon Johnson. Weldon couldn't break 30 in college. Started coaching under John Kellogg. That's 28.06. The guy that gave me all my workouts at Cornell, and we just dominated the Ivy League year in, year out. I said, please convert these times to me. What do you guys think they're equal to? 49.53 on the women's side.
For what event? What
You
distance?
can convert it to the 10K or the half marathon, whichever is your cup of tea.
I'm going to say like 30-20.
Yeah, I'll say like 30-14.
Oh, you guys are very good. Because she went through 10K and what, John?
30-56.
Yeah, so it's equivalent to 30:16.2, according to Mr. Kellogg. For the half marathon, it's equivalent to a 66:39 on his conversion chart. The American record, Wayne Colades, is 66:25. So, very good run. I mean, it's not like, you hear world's best. Like, we can't fool ourselves and act like this is like way better than any Americans run, but it's pretty wild that she ran faster and then ran an extra 3 miles than she did just, 1 week ago. So, and then for Charles Hicks, 45:14, according to John, is a 27:23 10,000. He's got it equal to 60:12 in the half marathon. Now, his 10K to half marathon conversion may be a little bit different than what most people do, but there you have it.
Yeah. Is it bad of me if I see these results and I immediately start thinking, like, what could Taylor Rowe do when she moves up to the marathon? That's really the glamour event on the roads. But I do think it's really encouraging because coming out of college, Taylor Rowe was a good college runner, NCAA champion indoors, was 3rd in the 10K last year, like consistently top 5 finishes. Like she was 2nd in cross country a while back. Like very good college runner, but I wasn't like, oh man, I can't wait to see what Taylor Rowe does when she turns pro. It's not like she was generating Valby levels of hype. She's moved to the roads essentially immediately. I know she ran the 10, but like clearly she's had most success in the roads, and she's really, really good. She's still only 24 years old. So I look at this, I'm like, this is a talent to be excited about. And maybe the marathon debut might still be a year or 2 away, but it's awesome to see. And having her and Fiona O'Keefe in the same training group, 2 young top American talents on the roads, I think that's really exciting.
Okay, there's a comment here from Jonathan Turbin. Will Chapman get its 10-mile split in Chicago? I can look it up here in a second. Because I'm like, oh, what do people split in half marathons? Then I pulled her up. It's like a minute faster than this, and she ran a full marathon. I mean, it's crazy. I'm going to look it up here.
Yeah, no, it's 49:49, which is faster than what she ran today. And that was one thing I did want to say. To the world best thing is very misleading because there are very few like women's 10-mile races. And if you compare it even to Letesenbet Gidey's like average pace. I think her average pace during her her half marathon world record was like 47:50 something, 47:57 for 10 miles. So there have been women who have run a lot faster for 10 miles, but none have been like, it's not a world record event. So that's why you get the world best thing.
It has to be faster than 49:49.
This was this was Chepngetich in Chicago 2022. This was when she ran 2:14, not when she ran 2:09.
Yeah.
No, I looked it up earlier today. At least her 15K split. I'm gonna try to find this here.
Because 5-minute pace is 2:12, which is what Roe was running today. I mean, we had a marathon run basically 4:55 pace, so you'd think it would be
What was Taylor's 15K split today?
like 49 flat, roughly.
What was Taylor today at 15K, John?
I don't have it right in front of me. I can pull it up.
Okay, 46:24. And Chepngetich was 45:32. So she was 52 seconds faster. So it's in that general ballpark of, probably she's going to kick. So maybe 45 seconds, who knows, somewhere in that ballpark faster than this. And she runs 16 more miles. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Look, we're not saying
sick.
We're not saying Taylor Rowe is the greatest women's 10 miler ever. I'm just saying it was really, really good. And especially compared to Americans, there's some decent Americans who run Cherry Blossom to just crush their course record like this of a long established race is really exciting. So it was a great run for her.
Our viewers are getting greedy now. Any college meet results of interest? I literally have no idea. Well,
Pamela Kosgei almost broke the NCAA record in the steeplechase. She ran 9:15 in her opener, so that was pretty good.
I forgot. We should have led with the twins, Stanford twins, Stanford invite. I should have flown down for it. Excuse me, driven down.
Flown? You're flying to Palo Alto? Well then.
Where's the thread? It was one of the top threads, not even a homepage. Lex 27:48 at 10K, Leo 13:31. That's also the crazy thing, because back in the day, if some collegian ran 27:48, you probably would have flipped and said, "Oh, that's a really good run." Now you're just kind of like, "Ah, it's pretty good. Step in the right direction for the kid."
Right. There were 12 college kids under 28 minutes in the Stanford invite 10K. And, obviously there were plenty of other guys who can go onto that. It's just totally reframed, because 27, like when I started working for Let's Run, if you broke 28, you were a serious contender to win the NCAA title. That was like elite, the college level. Now it's just, you're probably going to have sub 28 guys who don't even make the NCAA meet.
I guess we didn't have
so NCAA number ones in the men's 100. Have you ever heard of this name? Admittedly, it's wind illegal for world purposes, but it's wind legal for NCAA. 987 with a 2.2 wind. Abdul Rashid Saminu.
Is that the South Florida guy?
Well, nothing gets past Jonathan Gold. He formerly competed at Florida Memorial University. I've never heard of him.
Because I think, did he run for South Florida last year? I think he ran pretty decent there last year. And I mean, 987, I don't care if it's 2.2 win. That's like, that's almost legal. Like 987 with a 2.2, obviously you're getting a benefit there, but that's legit.
This is how crazy college sprinting is. He ran 10:02 in 2012 at NCAAs. He was 5th in the 100, 3rd in the 200 last year. And the 20:02 was run into a headwind. So he's basically as fast as Gout. But he was the former star at NAIA's powerhouse. I don't know the powerhouse. I'm just making it up. Florida
Memorial. Well, he was 5th at NCAA Outdoors last year. So yeah, I knew it. The name sounded familiar, but this is what we what happens is you'll have guys running NCAAs, the best guys turn pro, and then the people who are 5th, 6th, 7th become the stars the next year. It's just a cycle of the NCAA.
Ahmed Robinson of Texas A&M has run 44.6.
Okay, nobody cares about this.
Yeah.
We don't need random times. You got something important to say, tell us. But someone's got a comment here saying Weejo is a 27-20 guy in today's shoes, obviously. First of all, that's insulting. It'd be definitely sub 27. Because I used to I ran 28.06, but obviously that wasn't my best. You sort of say, like, hey, the training gets really good. Could I get close to the American record? That's
a lie. You're off the standard then. You'd be off the standard now. So you'd be 27.20.
Well, maybe I'm a responder to the shoes. I'd be right at 27. Thank you very much. I was right at the standard. But the point is, how did Taylor Rowe only run 30.50 something last week on the track? Maybe she's a super responder to shoes. I think we see this more with the women than the men. I mean, how does Chepengedich run 2:09? Well, I'm sure people have other theories, but what? Like,
I don't know.
If someone wants to go with the doping angle, what doping only works for one race and all the other races she run the rest of her life? I guess you could say the same thing with shoes, but I think some people, the shoes really work well for them.
Development of men and women's running is different. And the jumps you have to make, and the jumps some women make are insane. Like Shailene Flanagan's times as a pro compared to her college times. Kara Goucher, the same type of thing, like much more improved. I mean, by the way, we talk about Taylor Rowe. You know who she beat in that race to win NCAAs? She beat Caitlin Tui, who's never broken 15-minute flat. And yet you've got these Kenyans running 14:59 today in like 86-degree heat in the middle of the day. But you have to be so much better, and you never know, like, you know, and I guess some people are going to say that sometimes these women are dangerously thin to be this good, but it's just a huge jump. And I don't think, like, you don't normally see, well, Weldon is one of the few exceptions, people like improving as much on the men's side as the women's side.
Well, Robert, also, this brings me back to a conversation I had with Michael Johnson today, because I was asking him, did we need to tweak the format to the long distance events of the Grand Slam track meets? And he thought, yeah, maybe. But he also said, I think that our fields need to be better. The athletes were getting to show up. And because I don't think he liked seeing these races so strung out. And I think part of that was because of the conditions. You get better weather, it's not going to be as strung out. But part of it's unavoidable in the women's 5,000 meters. If you want to have a diverse field, which means not just Kenyans and Ethiopians, those races are going to be strung out because those women are so much better in that event. I found this, there were 9 women who broke 14:30 in the 5K last year. 7 were Ethiopian and 2 were Kenyan. So if you're bringing in, if you want the best of the best, it's basically just going to be from those 2 countries. Maybe you get better Clyde or something like that. So that's just, and if you're having a field full of Ethiopians, it can be hard to market that race to a U.S. audience. All the remaining meets are in the U.S. because most of them don't speak that much English. They're all from the same country. So that's just, I think that's just one of the challenges you have in that event is if you want to market it and spread out the representation among countries, you might have some of these spread out races because that's just how the event is, the talent's distributed.
I'm surprised they didn't get some of the top track talent. They have some of the top road talent. I guess they got Ty is pretty good, but I guess
Kipyegon doesn't want to walk away with $100,000. I'm just sort of shocked.
I'm surprised. Kipyegon, I can see. I'm surprised Beatrice Chibet wouldn't do it. But John, it's a little bit misleading. I was stunned that Michael said that. I thought it was a great aspect of your story to see that, and I thought it was great how you pointed that out. But even at the Olympics, I just think the heat and the wind made a factor today because
definitely,
and the other day too. Because at the Olympics, I mean, look, pulling up the women's 10,000 meter results, like Kaladi and Carissa Schweizer got, you could say, destroyed. I mean, they're 8th and 9th.
No, but they were there at the bell. Even Valby was there, like at the bell, right?
They're only 6 seconds off the win in a 10,000, with all the people in the world there. I guess you could say it was tactical, 30-40 for the women for the top, but yeah, it was a little surprising.
Well, John, most people haven't read your article yet. Expand on what Michael said when talking about possibly tweaking, because I'm curious what he means by that. Or what angle were you saying? Like,
Yeah, he didn't get into specific changes, but I asked him, he spoke to media for quite some time in the mix zone. He did about 10 minutes in this big scrum, and then everyone kind of got one or two questions one-on-one if you wanted them. And my question was, I thought that the format, the doubling, I thought it worked pretty well for a lot of the events, but for the distance events, I thought there was a real issue today with, like what we said with Grant Fisher. You've got one of the best athletes in the world, and he's not incentivized to run for the win. And I said, do you view that as an issue? And he said, yeah. He said coming in, that this is the quote he had. The distance one is the one that was always going to be a little bit of how's this going to work. We saw it play out today. We'll see. We'll talk about it and see what we might do. It worked for the first race. It doesn't quite work how I'd like it to for the second race. So he didn't get into specific changes he wanted to make, but he saw what we saw. He doesn't want to see a guy just sitting back and content to get third. He wants these guys to race for the win, every time you're on the track, because the product's better that way. So I don't know what they're going to think of, but he acknowledged, that's not what we want to see. And he wasn't like calling out Grant Fisher and saying, oh, I'm sure he understands why Fisher did what he did, but he understands it's something to be improved on.
Well, I said unrabbited 3s and 5s would be disasters, but what are they going to do? A rabbited 3 and 5 in this weather is not going to do anything. That he's going to get rid of the 3 and 5. I mean, I'm surprised, to be honest, that they even had that in there. But then there'd be such. I think if they didn't have distance races, there'd be such an uproar before the series even started. Like, we'd probably boycott it ourselves. So, but they've already gotten rid of field events.
No, I said earlier, just cut it to one race. But if you could even just say the distance events, we're going to pay $50,000 to the winner of each race, and you just chop the prize money in half, but distribute it evenly among the two races. That way, there's an incentive to run hard in both races and to run for the win in both races.
Yeah, do something like that, or oh my gosh, Grant Fisher, by being smart, killed the distance race as a Grand Slam track. I don't think we need to go there yet, but I don't know. Or people could point out to Michael Johnson, this is just like the Tour de France. Sometimes you just go for the overall win, not the stage win.
John, if Stefanos,
but also, come on, the 5Ks. Hold on, Robert. The 5Ks. The women's races today, that wasn't good TV either. Two people just way in front. Part of the thing is, I think the heat obviously really impacted things, but the fields are so small. You only have 8 people. I guess maybe in these Diamond Leagues, you have some people bombing as well, and you just don't notice as much. And also, what do you have in a Diamond League, John? They have a lot more of the top Ethiopians and Kenyans. I think they went American heavy, and those aren't the best runners in the world. I'm sorry, especially on the women's side. More so, I would say, or just the gap in talent is bigger, even though the women might be ranked higher. Who knows? So that's that. And there's a comment here by Dolan Evans. We're not going to get new viewers with mediocre races that turn into 2 different races. And I sort of agree. Let's say you're an outside person turning in. You're just kind of like, what is this? Or talking about something. It probably doesn't seem that different than a normal track meet. And the visuals were bad, empty seats. He also has a comment here. The stadium didn't look packed. Wow, he's being generous because that's not the words I used. But the home stretch kind of was okay. But I saw a photo here. I'd say maybe a third full, not half.
Yeah.
The
home stretch on Saturday and Sunday was all right, but there was still plenty of empty seats, and then the entire rest of the stadium was mostly empty, especially Friday and Sunday. So, yeah, obviously that is not something they're going to be playing up. I did see photographers in the stands. Like, somehow they did find some pictures where it looked like there were at least sections that were kind of a decent amount of fans, and that's obviously the stuff they want to promote. Yeah, and it goes back to our point about maybe Kingston wasn't the best place to start the series, but I think there were a lot of moving pieces in terms of venue availability and dates and that sort of thing that goes into setting it. In terms of, I don't think they were just going in and saying, "Oh, Kingston will sell out the whole thing." There are other factors to consider when you set the dates and locations.
You can make it like reality TV, pull people off the track. You lose your money. You're not in a certain distance of the winners. Look, part of it is just the depth is not there in women's running. The top women are such outliers. I just looked it up. How many people finished within 25 seconds of the world leader last year? 16 women. There was 33 men within 25 seconds of the world leader. If you look within 10 seconds, it's 3 and 5. Like, it's just not nearly as many. So,
all right, guys, we're past the 2-hour mark. So let's make some final points here and wrap it up.
my wife walked in right during the 800 today, men's 800, and she's like, "Are you busy? Is this an important thing?" I'm like, "The dentist. The goofy dentist is running." My wife is a Nagoose fan because she dated a guy from Notre Dame and thinks she likes his smile. She already wanted to be
Wait a
team.
second. Are you okay with this, Robert? She likes Yard Nagoose because of one of her exes?
I'm probably the one that brings up the X aspect of it, John. I don't know.
Okay.
I've noticed it, man.
You threw me off. What are you saying? Oh, somebody said this would have packed the place. MJ should have given 100,000 to a random fan on the bleachers to incentivize attendance. That's
Just
essentially
total
a $5
lottery.
rebate, right? You have to buy the tickets, and there's it's essentially like if 20,000 people came out, it's only a $5 rebate. But I think you might have packed the place. I mean, I don't know. The tickets are pretty expensive for Jamaica, so who knows that?
That's a brilliant idea. That is a brilliant idea. $5 tickets. We're going to give $100,000 to someone in the audience.
At the end of the day, right? You don't want it to be some free series like this Sail GP. People can buy bleachers tickets to watch, but other people can stand and watch from free in the shoreline. But you want it to look good. You want the visuals to look good. And I think look, they had some great races. It was entertaining. We're going to have round 2. They made it. There were some drop balls. We said all along, if there are not people there, cover the tarp the stadium. They didn't do that. They didn't get the people out. But
I will say I'd never been to Kingston and the National Stadium here before. It is a pretty cool setting. It's one of those where the track is sort of like a little bit below ground level, so it's sunken in a little bit. But in the background, if you're looking out from the home straight, you've got these mountains right behind. Like, well, not mountains, but like pretty big hills. And apparently I was talking to one of the someone who works for Nike in the stands today, and they were saying that Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price has like a house in one of the rich houses up there overlooking the stadium. And it's like a pretty majestic backdrop to a stadium. It reminds me of the old Hayward Field where you could look out across the East Grandstand and see the hills behind. And now you can't really get that view anymore because they covered it over. But it was fun. Like I enjoyed it. The crowd was into it, even though it wasn't huge. Like the horns made for a good atmosphere. They loved the Jamaican runners, and I did like the backdrop outside the stadium. So I enjoyed coming to this meet in Kingston. I will definitely say that. It's
easy to say they should have started with Miami, but I don't know if you reverse them. I think unless you have some of the Jamaican stars, we said, will people come out for 3 days of track? The answer is no. They have not found a way to do that. We thought that would be the answer. Maybe if there was one day, you would have had a decent crowd. I have no idea. They still don't know. But if you had Miami first, and it looks pretty good on TV because of visuals, because it's a tiny venue, then you went to Kingston for round 2. There were people like, oh my God, this is worse. It's really not catching on. So I don't know, Philly, my God, help us. I was talking to someone at Grand Slam track. They did seem fairly pleased with the Philly ticket sales so far. I think they know that upper bowl, obviously, you're never really going to sell much there, but they seemed like cautiously optimistic about the potential turnout in Philly because they essentially view it as if you're in the Northeast, that is your one opportunity to come to a Grand Slam meet. And obviously there's a lot of population in the Northeast corridor of the United States. And well, I mean, Atlas was sold out. So of course Grand Slam will sell out, right? Atlas sold out a big stadium. Oh, wait. Just got to get my digs at all the track promoters. Keep trying, guys.
My buddy from Cornell, Supporters Club member Ross McGowan, is taking his 2 daughters, who McGowan sisters. They'll probably be Probably like.
I don't need to know how old they are.
We
Robert.
don't
He's
need
taking his
another
daughters.
age,
That's
Robert. It's
great.
really
Where are they
important.
located though? Like, where is he coming in
I'm saying
from?
2040 Olympic champions, 2036 and 2040. They'll be like the Ingebrigtsens of the girls track and field. He's taking them out of school from Pittsburgh to Philly. I don't know how far that is. But I'm like, are you going to all 3 days? He's like, no, it's too much. Just 2 days. So even for them.
Wait, he's taking them out of school, but they are only going to 2 days? I guess if you're going after, were they going Saturday, Sunday, and it just takes too long to get back, or what?
No, I assume they're going Friday, Saturday, and you don't want to go Sunday because then you get back too late.
Okay. Well, enjoy the meet, Ross, and we'll see your famous theory. See if it's maybe there'll be someone it applies to and putting it into action in that meet.
And it may be announced that Michael Johnson will be giving $100,000 to the media members who paid their own way to the meet. I think, John, you might have a good chance of winning that. Should be retroactive, obviously, just to not reward future behavior, but just reward great behavior in the past.
Okay. Yeah, whatever. It was interesting in terms of media members here. I mean, Jamaican media was out in force, but like US reporters, I did see FlowTrack here, Sidious, Sidious, essentially just a promotion agent for Grand Slam track because there's close ties
FlowTrack
there.
gets a promotion for World Athletics? I don't consider either one of those to be serious reporting entities.
I mean, FlowTrack has the Diamond League rights, and they were still down here in Jamaica with multiple people like filming content and producing stuff. So, respect them for that. And like they've got a vested interest in having the Diamond League succeed. So for them to come down and cover this, I give them credit. But like the AFP was here. I don't know if someone from the AP was here or not, but it'd be interesting to see, like, do you get someone from the Athletic or the Washington Post or some, major national publication? Will they show up for Miami or Philly or LA? I guess LA is probably the most likely.
I mean, I'm actually. Okay.
Robert, it's late on the East Coast. Do you have a point to make or not, or we're going to end the show?
John's praising the FlowTrack for their coverage of Grand Slam track. Go to their homepage right now. There's not a single thing on Grand Slam track. In the corner, it says Grand Slam track, and you click on that, and there's some interviews that they're probably getting interviews so they can have filler for their Diamond League broadcast.
Okay, fair enough. Actually, their homepage right now is a picture of Faith Kipyegon saying a look ahead to the start of the Diamond League season, which starts 3 weeks from now. Whereas we just had Grand Slam track, which is like the big thing this weekend. And then I'm looking at the headlines on the right. Wait, is this stuff just like, have they not been updating the homepage this weekend? The headlines on the right. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, which has been there since February 2023. We're less than 1 month from the Diamond League season. Here's what to watch. Penn Relays records. Here's how to find all high marks from the meet. That's another meet that they broadcast. Tracksmith Elite Racer review. Olympic podium rematch to take the ring at the 2025 Prefontaine Classic. So, all right, they are getting some content from Grand Slam track, but okay, I do rescind a little bit of the credit because they're not promoting any of it on the homepage.
Wait, this is crazy. Because once Robert said there, I started thinking, I'm like, wait, they don't go to a lot of stuff anymore. Unless it's their event. So maybe they were getting videos for the Diamond League. This is really fascinating now. And also, like, I'm like, the Tracksmith Elliott Racer review. I'm like, is Tracksmith paying them? But then I see it's through this TRE thing, but they probably got paid to cover TRE or something like that. Like, oh my gosh, how is this stuff not disclosed? It's crazy. Or hey, maybe it's just perfectly editorial. This is just a supposition.
Speaking of which, did y'all notice Matthew Centrowitz was decked out in Tracksmith all weekend?
I did see that. When I saw him do it the first night, I'm like, oh, maybe he's just got a nice Tracksmith shirt. And then I saw him do it the second night. I'm like, oh, he's got some sort of sponsorship contract here, obviously.
All I know is he's not with Nike anymore. I did text Matt Taylor, who was Weldon's nice good buddy when Weldon was at Yale, founder of Tracksmith. I'm like, do you guys pay him? Is he on your? Because they hired Nick Willis after he retired, so he did not respond yet. So
It'd be a
Okay,
good
all right.
hire. I mean, who was the biggest loser with Cole Hawker's win? Centralist.
Centra.
He would have
Yeah.
been banking. He was going to be the only gold Olympic 1500 meterist for the next 50 years. Now he's got another guy competing in that lane. Oh man, Nike drops him. Who knows when that contract goes up? But Nike made him some ambassador. Now they're like, oh, we don't really need you. I mean, sort of half joking, but really not.
Yeah, I mean, well, Centro's a really good personality. Like, he'd be someone you would want to have associated with your brand. But all right, we can end this show. Stop patting ourselves on the back for being the last true unbiased media in track and field.
Wait.
It's just like, it just sounds so congratulatory. It kind of makes me sick. So
And if you're not a supporter club member, it's a shame because you missed last night's show when I took a victory lap. They said Jonathan Gault has a great memory. His photographic is amazing, but Robert Johnson understands track. I've been saying since last April that Emmanuel Wanyonyi is incredible. I mean, they did win the Olympic 800 141, but that the road mile wiping the floor of Hobbs Kessler was significant, and it was proven this weekend.
Yeah, for our regular listeners, thanks first of all for tuning in all the way to the end. But second, yeah, I did give Robert his props. He took his victory lap on the Supporters Club podcast. If you want to listen to that, letsrun.com/subscribe to join the Supporters Club. Thank you, everyone who signed up recently. Yeah, Robert was right. He made about the prediction. I'm glad you've actually got the dates right this time, Robert. You were saying yesterday you've been calling it for years. It actually hasn't even been one.
I'll give you credit, John. I didn't put money down on him. I did win money on Hagos today. You're the one that won $3,000. Do you feel comfortable telling the fans?
Talk a little bit about the betting. Talk a little about the betting, John. People want to know what you won. You can just give broad guidelines. If you don't want to, fine.
I don't really feel too confident. All I will say is that when DraftKings posted the initial lines, they were the most mispriced lines I've seen in the history of track and field. Like, they had people who would have been the favorites in their events going off at 50 to 1, 70 to 1, like 100 to 1. Just like, I don't know who set the lines, but clearly they weren't following the sport closely. It was just horribly mispriced. They corrected it by the end of the weekend, but they're essentially offering free money if you knew about track and field.
Well, I mean, the person had to win, but there was a person originally listed at 100 to 1 who won the race. John couldn't even get on them at 100 to 1. But that's crazy. And also, there's only 8 people in the race. Like, why are you pricing someone at 100 to 1? Like, you could have a fall or something, and everybody scored through.
That shows you how just top heavy track and field is. But who was the big winner for you, Johnny?
He doesn't want to say.
I don't really want to talk about that.
I will say this does make the much hyped sponsorship agreement that Grand Slam Track announced in February this year to look like a joke. They announced that Stats Perform is the exclusive global data and betting rights distributor and integrity partner. So, I guess they didn't do a very good job with their.
Well, they could have a way they could make lines available, and the sports books have to pick them up. I don't know exactly how that works. But one more thing on the new people coming in. People are saying they want Josh Hoey. If I'm coming in for one race and I'm Josh Hoey, I'm coming in for one where the 800s first. And also because all the racers are mainly 1500 racers.
Well, that's the loss too. It's Philly and LA. He's from Philadelphia. I would think it makes logical sense for him to do that one.
So he runs Philly, picks off the 8, then he only has to do decent in the 1500s. He's got a really good chance of winning $100,000. So that's what I would do if I was them. And also, John.
A-Rob in it?
Oh, A-Rob's running. He's got to race A-Rob fresh. That'd be a great race. I don't need to see. Apparently now these 1500 guys are also, and John's fine with it. They're also ran an 800 off the back, and John said he's not surprised by that. It was shocking today. And this was a surprising negative. I don't want to see that going forward. Maybe it was the wind or whatever it was, but I expected them to be more competitive than they were.
I think they will be as the season goes on. It's the first weekend of April. These 1500 guys are still building that base up. That 800 speed is not going to be where it's at later in the summer. So I do think by LA it'll be better.
Okay, John. And also, like, You usually lead the podcast, John, talking about soccer and stuff. You didn't do that this week or the last podcast. Like, what's going on in the soccer world? Can you update people?
Well, Brighton's season has fallen apart in the last 10 days. 10 days ago, we were in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup and we were in 7th in the Premier League. And I was thinking, European football, baby, we might win the FA Cup. Since then, we got knocked out of the FA Cup on penalties to Nottingham Forest, which broke my heart. Like one of the toughest defeats I've ever had as a Brighton fan, because the teams left in the tournament, it was shaping up for us to at least have a good shot to win. And then we get hammered at home by Aston Villa in midweek. And then on Saturday morning, I wake up in Jamaica and we lose to Crystal Palace, our big rivals. It's the first time they've beaten us twice in a season since 1933. With 10 minutes, we had 12 minutes basically left of the game with 11 on 9. That was the opportunity that confronted us. We were down 2-1. Crystal Palace had 2 men sent off. Instead of capitalizing on that, Matt Swiefer makes a mistake, which causes Van Hecker to get sent off. We're 11 versus 10. We can't score. We were totally toothless in the second half. And now with all the other results going against us, we're down to 9th in the table. We're out of the European places. So we have a pretty good next few fixtures coming up. There's winnable matches, but it was really depressing. And we lost to our hated rivals who Weldon happens to support. So yeah, it wasn't a fun last 10 days for me, Weldon, as a Brighton fan.
Well, I said that just to gloat a bit, trying not to smile too much. I hope that was therapeutic because I thought you would just brush it off. My God.
Well, I mean, we're still above you in the table. So let me know when you get in the top half, Weldon. Good luck with that.
Wow, people. But you heard it all there. The analysis, you should be a soccer pundit as well. Football pundit, as they say.
Yeah, any Brighton fan would say
the best comment here is by Justin Cabine. Jesus, is this still live?
Yeah,
my daughter put her to bed in an hour.
I want to sign off.
I've
got all right, it's 11:21 in Jamaica. I think I've just gone just enough time to watch the White Lotus season finale before I can go to bed. So that's what I'm going to do as soon as I sign off here. Thanks, everyone. We've still got, it's been stuck at 713 for a while. I don't know if that's the accurate viewer number in terms of our live audience at the moment, but thanks everyone for tuning in. Enjoy giving you the news from Jamaica and all the interviews. Hope you guys enjoyed the content. And we'll be back on Friday with the Friday 15. Don't know what we're going to preview at this point because, like I said, the track season, there's not that much going on after this meet, and the spring marathons are the big ones are still 2 weeks away. But we'll find something to talk about, I'm sure. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Signing off on Sunday night from Jamaica.
Thank you for all your work, John and Roberts. Till Friday, everybody. Join the Supporters Club. Let'sRun.com/subscribe. San Francisco people, we got to have another meetup. What event should it be for? Email me.